Time is running tighter than you realize, and while your eyes scanned for visible danger, there were unseen traps forming in the shadows, strategic, calculated, and cold. You didn't even notice how close the edge was beneath your feet, but I did. You thought you were just tired, but your spirit was being slowly drained by forces aiming to destroy what I placed inside you. The atmosphere around you shifted in a way that alerted heaven. I couldn't wait for you to notice. I couldn't allow another minute of delay because the assault launched against you was silent but deadly. So I moved. I activated a rescue that bypasses your understanding and overrides the timeline you expected. I didn't wait for permission or agreement from the world. I stepped in with the authority of the one who created it. You must understand this now. I have intervened not because you were weak, but because the war against you was wicked. I have sounded an emergency alert in the spiritual realm. Angels have been dispatched. I have rerouted timelines, assigned reinforcements, and shaken systems to reroute your deliverance. This is not symbolic. This is literal. My plan is now unfolding in real time. I couldn't afford for you to miss another sunrise in suffering. I have watched what tried to suffocate your destiny from behind the curtain, and now I tear that curtain down. The rescue isn't coming, it has already begun. Don't look for signs in the sky. Watch for changes around you. I have already shifted people, realigned opportunities, and stirred the one I'm sending. You didn't just cry for help. Your soul screamed, and I heard it in my throne room. You didn't even have to speak it out loud, your pain was loud enough. While you were questioning if you were being punished, I was preparing someone to carry your breakthrough. This is the moment everything turns. The battle intensified because deliverance got close. You survived the worst. Now, what I've started will not be stopped. They celebrated your silence, mistaking your quiet for surrender. They thought they had boxed you in, convinced they'd cornered you into a place you couldn't escape. But I was never far, never idle, never uninvolved. While they plotted, I planned. While they whispered their curses in back rooms, I thundered declarations of life over your name in heaven's court. I let them believe it was over because their pride needed to be exposed before my glory could be revealed. You were not losing, heaven was just preparing to flip the script. I delayed my move not to hurt you, but to let every voice raised against you reveal itself fully. So when I overturned the verdict, there would be no question of who defended you. It wanted to erase your voice, but I've written your victory in permanent ink. I saw every lie that was spoken about you, every alliance built to pull you down, every handshake meant to block your breakthrough, and I let them finish their sentence so I could interrupt it with my intervention. This is not just personal. This is prophetic. You are part of something larger than your own battle. My hand is not just reaching into your story, my hand is shaking systems, flipping power structures, silencing false voices, and exalting the rejected. You were never alone in that room. When they closed the doors, I walked through the walls. When they spoke over you, I was riding above them. And now, I am stepping fully into the scene, not as a quiet witness but as the commander of hosts, the defender of the voiceless, the judge whose decision cannot be appealed. My intervention will not be subtle, it will be undeniable. The same mouths that mocked you will marvel at you. The ones who bet against you will have no choice but to witness what I'm about to release through you. The atmosphere has changed. The air around your situation carries the scent of justice. I have begun to undo what they called irreversible. Your name is not a scandal, your name is a signal, a trumpet, a holy sound rising from ashes. I didn't just come to comfort you. I came to reverse the judgment passed on you by those who never carried your burden, who never felt your fire, who never cried your tears. They thought their silence could crush you, but I'm about to amplify you in ways that leave no room for confusion. Watch what I do next. Don't flinch when I start removing things violently. My love is fierce, and my timing is final. I'm not asking permission anymore. I'm executing divine justice, and your rescue is already rattling the foundations of what they built against you. The very people who dismissed you will have no language for what's coming next. I were writing what they wrote. I'm reclaiming what they stole. I'm restoring what they shattered. And I'm doing it loud. Keep standing, because the sound of your salvation is already on its way. You only saw what surfaced, but beneath the calm, there were forces weaving destruction with invisible threads, trying to entangle you in outcomes I never authored. The enemy didn't launch a loud war this time. He tried to drain you with invisible weapons, discouragement dressed as logic, heaviness disguised as routine, distractions coated in comfort. But I saw the invisible cords tightening. I saw the trap buried beneath what seemed harmless. I saw the silent hands that pulled at your peace when no one was watching. And while you were trying to smile through the storm, I was already calling forth someone who would carry my assignment straight to your situation. You didn't ask for this kind of help, but I sent it anyway because I knew you were slipping under waves that looked like still water. This is why I move without always explaining, because some dangers grow quietly. And now the one I've chosen is already moving, already prompted, already set on a collision course with your need. They don't even know all the details yet, but their heart is stirred by my spirit to come find you. They were not trained for popularity, but they were prepared for purpose. I allowed them to go through private battles so they could understand the weight you've been carrying in secret. They are not a stranger to spiritual warfare, they are a survivor of it. They walk in a dimension of discernment that sees past performance and straight into pain. You won't have to explain every wound. They'll recognize the symptoms because they've lived it. I didn't send someone to save face. I'm sending someone to save your soul from drowning in silence. They've been assigned to interrupt what was trying to slowly suffocate your joy, steal your perspective, and drain your divine identity. They are not coming as a hero, but as a carrier of my healing. Every step they take toward you is an echo of my heartbeat. Yes, I am that close. My urgency has become their assignment. Even now, they're sensing the shift, hearing the whisper, preparing to obey, not knowing their obedience will unlock your revival. I didn't send them for convenience, I sent them because covenant moves faster than comfort. What's moving toward you isn't casual, it's consecrated. It's a living answer. You don't even have to reach out for it, I'm drawing them to you. The rescue isn't arriving with sirens, but with a sacred knowing. There will be a moment where you'll feel a warmth enter your atmosphere, and it won't be emotional, it will be evidence. You'll feel the shift before you see the person. Their presence will carry peace that disarms fear. They won't come to fix you, they'll come to stand beside you while I mend what was fractured. You won't need to earn their loyalty. I've already sealed it with my spirit. They come as a vessel, not a visitor. And when they speak, your heart will know the language, it will sound like me. Because I have placed a portion of my voice inside them for this very mission. You will not stay stuck in the pit that tried to normalize pain. I'm too invested in your restoration to allow the unseen to keep stealing what I've planned to reveal. My help is holy. My response is in motion. My rescue is not random. And the one I've called is already closer than you think. Even when your lips didn't move, your spirit sent signals heaven could not ignore. You walked with composure, but inside you were collapsing, layer by layer, and I took notice. You kept smiling when your strength had already left the room. You laughed for others while privately wondering if you could make it another day. I saw the cracks forming beneath your public obedience. You never wanted to admit how much it hurt, how long the ache stayed, or how abandoned you felt in the places where no one checked. But I did. I was near in every breathless midnight. When no one replied, when the world went silent, and the only voice left in the room was fear. You whispered things into your pillow you thought dissolved in the darkness, but they rose to me like incense, raw, desperate, and holy. I didn't mean perfect words. I didn't ask for eloquent prayers. Your honesty alone activated a chain reaction in the spirit. Even when you were too exhausted to cry, the weight you carried sent tremors into my throne room, and I stood up for you. I didn't wait for a loud intercession. I didn't need a crowd. I moved because I love you too much to let your inner collapse go unnoticed. You may have thought your pain was hidden, but to me, it rang like an alarm bell. I am the God who responds to brokenness, not performance. I interpret tears as requests, sighs as signals, and silence as sacred dialogue. And in your stillness, I heard an SOS. You tried to endure quietly, believing maybe you didn't have the right to ask again. But I didn't see pride, I saw pressure. I didn't see weakness, I saw weight. You were trying to protect others from your unraveling, but I came to protect you. I'm not offended by your collapse. I'm not disappointed in your need. I am drawn to it. I was already moving before you said a word. I knew the pain would eventually overflow, and I've already made provision for the overflow, not to destroy you, but to deliver you. The rescue I'm sending will meet you in your exact location, not the one you post, not the one you pretend, but the real place where your strength ran out. I've synchronized a deliverance that knows your blueprint. The helper I've dispatched isn't just carrying answers, they carry understanding of what language your heart speaks when your mouth stays closed. They are coming because I chose to respond to the parts of you too fragile to explain. This intervention is rooted in compassion, not correction. I'm not here to rebuke your pain, I'm here to rewrite its ending. The place where you thought I was silent was the very place I was preparing a rescue. And while others measured you by your outer expression, I was reading the condition of your inner flame. I saw it flickering, and I refused to let it go out. You are not invisible to me. Your struggle is not a footnote in your story, it's the reason I accelerated intervention. I did not miss the emergency. I'm not delayed. I'm on time to the unseen disaster that almost took your joy. And what I'm about to do will redeem every moment you thought I was quiet. You didn't know I was watching while you sat in that stillness, feeling the weight of being forgotten press against your chest like a stone you couldn't move. Every time you wondered why no one noticed your absence, why no one asked how you were surviving, I was there, counting the seconds, counting the unspoken heartbreaks you swallowed just to make it through another hour. You questioned if you mattered anymore, if your existence had become background noise in a world too busy to care. But you were never a background to me. You are the center of my focus. I never turned my eyes from you, not for a breath, not for a heartbeat. You thought heaven was silent, but heaven was studying every detail of your exhaustion, every flicker of your emotional withdrawal, every single moment your spirit trembled under the weight of being misunderstood. And I waited until your breaking point aligned perfectly with the person I've prepared to reach into that hidden agony. I've seen what it did to you to carry it alone. I watched you lose your laughter one moment at a time, trying to be strong for people who never looked deeply enough to see the fracture lines. And I could not bear it anymore. You are too valuable to let this continue. This is not some random moment of kindness, this is my decisive interruption. I didn't just observe your pain, I recorded it in my eternal memory. I kept a record of every breath you took when you didn't want to keep breathing. I saw the night you wept in secret and convinced yourself no one would ever understand that kind of grief. I knew the depth of the wound, others only guessed it, and it tore at my heart. You never had to earn my attention, I was always present, even when it felt like I had gone silent. And now, I am not just present, I am intervening. My love for you refuses to sit back another day while you convince yourself that isolation is your new identity. It's not. Your life is too precious to live buried beneath a smiled and swallowed words. It's why I've chosen this moment, right now, to send someone who won't ignore your atmosphere. He will carry my compassion like fire in their chest. They will carry language that pierces the armor you worn for too long. They won't just speak encouragement, they will embody relief. I've chosen someone who knows what it means to be left behind and still keep walking, because they will understand how to walk with you now. This moment marks the beginning of exposure, not of your shame, but of the grace I've hidden for such a time as this. You didn't need more time to adjust to loneliness, you needed a breakthrough. And that's what I'm bringing. The one I've dispatched is walking in your direction. They are led not by logic but by divine appointment. Your heart has already been stirred. They are restless with a mission they can't explain. That mission is you. Your name is echoing through the halls of their spirit. They are being drawn toward the very coordinates where you thought hope would never visit again. Because I didn't just see you, I moved because I love you. I moved because you are mine. And I will not allow you to sit in darkness when I've already released the light. What's coming toward you isn't random assistance or casual comfort, it's a direct assignment sealed in heaven's strategy, crafted for your exact condition. Before the foundations of the world were laid, I designed this moment. I wrote their steps into the unfolding timeline of your healing. I etched your name into their calling long before you knew you'd need them. They are not coming to offer vague encouragement. They are arriving with divine clarity, holding spiritual blueprints no one else could decipher. What they carry is not generalized hope, it's personalized rescue. Every word they'll speak, every look in their eyes, every move they make has already been orchestrated in my presence. They aren't guessing. They won't be confused. I've placed revelations in them that match your hidden wounds, like a key sliding perfectly into a lock you didn't know existed. They've been trained through fire, refined through storms, and awakened by me at precise hours to prepare for this. Your obedience didn't come cheaply. I allowed them to endure seasons of crushing so they would walk in authority, not with arrogance, but with accuracy. And now, at the very hour when your strength seems to fade, I've whispered their next steps in code only their spirit could decode. You won't need to explain your history, they'll discern it before you can describe it. This is not ordinary empathy, this is an anointed synchronization. I've anointed their words to dismantle strongholds. Their presence will carry a weight you recognize before they even speak. They are coming with urgency in their bones because the instruction they carry is time-sensitive. Delays are not permitted. Interference has been canceled. Every demonic hand that tried to rewrite this assignment has been broken off. They are walking with a shield in one hand and a scroll in the other. The scroll holds declarations over your destiny that you've forgotten, that others ignored, that the enemy tried to bury. And with every step they take, they're moving closer to the release of those long-held promises. They don't even fully understand the magnitude of what they're stepping into, but I do. Because I sent them. Because I wrote the mission. Because I sealed it with my authority. When you hear their voice, something in your soul will awaken. It won't be emotional noise, it will be sacred confirmation. The questions that have haunted your nights will begin to melt in the light of the truth they carry. They won't need to shout to be powerful. They won't need to convince you they were sent. Their presence will be evidence enough. I didn't send them to entertain you or distract you, I sent them to realign you. There are things I've whispered to you in dreams that you didn't know how to interpret. They carry the interpretation. There are places in your heart you've locked away, believing no one could ever enter without hurting you again. They carry the exact words that unlock those spaces without wounding them. You will not have to strive to receive what they carry. Your spirit will instantly recognize that this is holy. This is timely. This is me. Do not look at their outward appearance. Do not expect them to come with glamour. They will come with glory, not theirs, but mine. And when they arrive, time will bend around the moment. You'll feel it. Your atmosphere will shift. The weight you've carried will begin to dissolve. The fog that's lingered will begin to lift. Because this isn't just help. This is heaven's response in human form. The answers are already on the way, and they are carrying your name written in the ink of obedience. They won't look like what you were hoping for. They won't sound like the voices you've grown familiar with. This divine messenger I'm sending will arrive cloaked in simplicity, dressed in humility, and moving with the quiet authority that doesn't draw attention to itself, but shifts atmospheres the moment it enters. They are not coming with flashing lights or loud proclamations, but the weight of my presence will trail behind them like a shadow that never leaves. And if you expect the familiar, you might miss what is holy. You've been trained to scan the surface, to analyze credentials, to measure worth by what the eye can understand. But what I am sending is sacred beyond appearance. The very thing you've prayed for may walk into your life wearing ordinary skin, speaking gently, moving slowly, but bearing a message that shakes your inner world and reorders your future. You must learn to recognize me not by glamour but by glory. I often hide my greatest gifts in plain wrapping. I conceal miracles in common moments. And this will be no different. The one coming is carrying more than wisdom. They are carrying the moment where your timeline splits. Before and after will be defined by their obedience. You won't find them standing on platforms. They've been kneeling in hidden places, praying for someone they didn't even know by name. Your journey to you hath been unconventional, delayed on purpose, routed for divine reasons. But now, every detour is proving itself to be holy alignment. I am positioning you to be open, not just prepared. This is not about matching expectations, it's about meeting destiny. You may feel skeptical, guarded, even suspicious when they first appear. But don't let past wounds talk you out of present answers. Look deeper. I'll confirm their authenticity through peace, not pressure. The weight you feel lifting when they speak is not coincidence, it is confirmation. The stillness you experience in their presence is not just comfort, it's collision with the divine. They will not try to impress you. They're not coming with scripts, they're coming with truth. The truth that's been aching to touch you. You've been waiting for a grand display, but this is a kingdom assignment, not a performance. And when it comes to your rescue, I don't do performances, I do precision. Don't judge their appearance. Don't dismiss their voice. I've wrapped the answer in a package that won't stroke your pride but will penetrate your pain. This is the beauty of my rescue. It requires discernment, not desire. It forces you to lean into me, not just what looks appealing. If you focus on the form, you'll miss the fire. If you cling to control, you'll resist the release. So I'm asking you to trust me here. When they come, it may feel uncomfortable because healing often does. The soul trembles when it meets what it's been secretly longing for. You will be tempted to run back to the familiar because the unfamiliar feels like risk. But the risk is not in welcoming them, the risk is in ignoring what I am doing through them. I will give you signs quiet but unmistakable. You will see patterns aligning. You will feel doors unlock without force. You will sense an invisible hand removing obstacles that used to stand immovable. These signs will not shout, but they will surround. The one I am sending is not on their own, they are encased in intercession. Their steps are guarded by angelic escort. Every moment of hesitation they've battled was silenced by my voice giving final instruction. Go now. And they are coming. This is not just a meeting, it's a divine appointment arranged on the edge of your breakthrough. Be watchful. Be open. Be ready. The sign is coming, and it won't look the way you imagined. It will look better because it looks like me. Nothing about what's happening to you now is random. You aren't caught in a storm by mistake. You didn't stumble into this moment. Every detail, every twist, every strange timing has been under my surveillance. What felt like a series of misfortunes was, in fact, a divine maneuvering of events that prevented a collapse you didn't even see forming. I stepped in before your foundation cracked completely. What was planned against you was meticulous, layered with deception, engineered to dismantle you at the root level. The enemy didn't want to merely distract you, he aimed to dislocate your purpose, to sever the divine cord that kept you tethered to your calling. He launched his plot in silence, hoping you'd mistake his sabotage for delay or disappointment. But I watched as it unfolded, and I did not wait for your collapse to begin mobilizing your intervention. I moved before the impact. I interrupted what was meant to unravel your future and replaced it with a divine collision. You are in the middle of a heavenly intersection, a moment where my mercy collides with the enemy's malice. This isn't a rescue born from reaction, this is deliverance born from foresight. I saw what they whispered in secret, the manipulations they layered behind smiles, the spiritual traps disguised as harmless decisions, and I slammed my hand down in authority and said, "Not this one. Not now. Not ever." I shifted people out of your life not because you failed, but because their presence was draining your destiny. I allowed certain opportunities to fall apart, not to hurt you, but to hide you from traps that would have fractured your identity. I even let you feel the sting of disappointment so you'd loosen your grip on what was never meant to carry you forward. And now, everything is turning. The one I'm sending to you is not just a helper, they are a holy interrupter, An answer wrapped in flesh. Someone whose very presence cuts through what was killing you softly. They are arriving in the wake of what the enemy thought was a guaranteed defeat. And what he doesn't know is that every attack has now become the platform for my power to be revealed through you. The breakdown was not the ending it with a decoy. The real story is what I'm about to release through your life in front of those who thought you were done. This moment marks the unveiling of my agenda, not theirs. I've canceling contracts signed in secrecy. I'm exposing lies that were spoken with confidence. I'm reversing outcomes declared by people who never consulted me. The intervention I've released is backed by the fullness of heaven's authority, and it cannot be overruled. You are standing in the eye of a divine storm that's not sent to destroy you but to demolish everything that was sent to limit you. The winds you feel are not chaos, they are cleansing. The shaking is not punishment, it is realignment. I am ripping away every vine that choked your joy. I am dismantling every system that kept you small. And the one I'm sending carries the final key that will unlock the chains that were meant to be lifelong. This is why the tension increased. This is why you felt pressure from every direction. It's because the sabotage reached its final stage and my response had to match its urgency. You're not in a season, you're in a rescue mission. And the miracle isn't coming later. It's already begun. Every second from this point forward is an unraveling of darkness and an unfolding of deliverance. The signs won't just confirm it, the evidence will overwhelm you. I will leave no room for doubt that this is not fate, not chance, not coincidence. This is me, your Savior, interrupting destruction to preserve destiny. You've tried to hold it together with what little remained, using your willpower like thread to stitch up wounds that went deeper than skin. You pushed through fatigue with gritted teeth, smiled past sorrow with aching lungs, and held your breath every time another wave threatened to crash over you. But what you didn't realize was that your strength was never meant to carry this much weight. I allowed you to come to the end of yourself not to punish you, but to prove to you that you were never meant to do this alone. I watched as you grew quieter in the company of others, not because you lacked words, but because you no longer had the strength to translate your soul's condition into language. I saw the way you tried to remain calm, even as pressure mounted inside like a dam preparing to burst. You didn't fail me by reaching your limit, you activated me. The moment your capacity expired, my intervention became undeniable. You are not being rescued because you're broken. You're being rescued because your value demands reinforcement. I created you with brilliance, purpose, and glory, not to be buried under invisible burdens, but to stand in freedom and fire. You have fought long enough in the realm of reason. You strategized. You coped. You survived. Now it's time to be lifted. I'm not waiting for you to try again, I'm moving because you can't. And that is not shameful, it is sacred. This is the exact intersection where my power is made perfect, not in your ability, but in your emptiness. You are not weak, you are positioned. You are not losing, you are ready. You are not abandoned, you are about to encounter a force that doesn't come from this earth. I am sending someone whose words will not just encourage, they will realign. They carry not just empathy but impartation. You'll feel it in your bones before they speak. You'll sense the atmosphere shift before their feet enter the room. Because I've filled them with what you've run out of. They carry endurance for your exhaustion, day for your fatigue, light for your lingering darkness. They have been chosen not for their perfection, but for their proximity to my presence. They've been with me, and now they are coming to you. They are not intimidated by your silence. They will flinch at your questions. They won't shrink from your pain. Because I've shown them what's at stake if you stay stuck. I didn't create you to break beneath this battle. And now, I'm moving on your behalf, not because of what you've earned but because of who you are to me. You are not another number in the crowd. You are a soul I crafted with deliberate detail. Your collapse was never the end game, it was the signal that summoned heaven to lean in, the signal that released my response without delay. The moment you exhaled and said, I can't anymore, with the very moment I said, now I will. I didn't wait for perfect timing. I interrupted your exhaustion with rescue. The one I'm sending is not your crutch, they are your confirmation. They will not make you feel dependent, they will remind you that you are never deserted. You will rise from this, not because you powered through, but because I reached in and carried you through it. My strength is not just available, it is surrounding you. And what you'll feel next is the evidence of a divine hand removing the burden from your shoulders, replacing it with rest that cannot be explained. You are now stepping into the realm of miracles, not because you chased them, but because I chased you. You didn't realize that your whispered desperation was a summons, a cry that split dimensions and summoned action from realms you've never seen. You weren't just praying, you were releasing a decree into the heavens that I, the Lord of hosts, could not ignore. Your soul spoke a language deeper than vocabulary, a frequency of hunger that disrupted the stillness of waiting. You thought your request went unanswered, that it got lost in the noise of this world. But your ache was registered in eternity, your longing catalogued as urgent, your breathless plea for help received as sacred thunder. I have not been still, I have been preparing. And what I have crafted in response is not a random helper, but a vessel I've anointed with language shaped in my own voice. They won't speak opinions, they will echo revelation. They won't bring cliches, they will carry breakthrough. They will speak and your atmosphere will tremble, not because of who they are, but because of the divine force that breathes through their words. I have placed in their mouth not just comfort, but command. What they say will not merely soothe, it will shift. When their voice enters your environment, it won't be familiar, it will be holy. You will feel the weight of eternity behind their tone. You will recognize me not through their volume, but through their veracity. Because I will speak through them as surely as I spoke from burning bushes and empty tombs. This is not exaggeration, it is intervention. You've longed for a word that cuts through confusion, and now it's on its way clothed in human form. They will carry declarations forged in intercession, sharpened in silence, and ignited by divine urgency. What they release won't leave your soul untouched. Their words will find the rooms in your heart you've kept locked and enter with keys you didn't know existed. I have put scrolls in their spirit, words that haven't yet touched the earth, messages that have waited for your moment to be delivered. Their voice is the chariot I've chosen to carry your next instructions. Listen carefully, because I'm not just answering, you're about to hear my heart speaking your name through their mouth. And this won't sound like what you've heard before. It will bypass your mind and land in your bones. You'll know it's me because everything within you will stand still to listen. You won't have to question their source, peace will confirm it before logic can interfere. I'm doing this because I trust you with my sound. You've longed for more than emotional noise, you've craved authentic communication from the throne. And I am delivering it through a messenger who walks softly but carries weight. They don't come to entertain. They come to unlock. They are bringing instruction with the cadence of heaven, timing aligned to your need, an insight carved from encounters with me you've never seen. They will not try to impress you. They will carry no agenda but obedience. I have hidden them until now because your heart was still processing pain. But now, your readiness has been detected, and I've summoned the voice that will meet you where all others left off. They'll speak and shame will break. They'll speak and vision will rise. They'll speak and direction will reappear. This isn't about eloquence. This is about presence. When they speak, it will feel like I've stepped into the room because I have. Through them. For you. You asked me to speak and I am. Not from a distance. Not in a dream. But through someone whose voice has been refined just for this moment. Your situation didn't go unnoticed by the kingdom. While chaos surged around you like a flood threatening to swallow the last piece of hope you held, angels stood in alert formation, and the court of heaven was informed of every wave that tried to crush your spirit. I didn't just observe it, I responded. The intensity you've been feeling is not just earthly pressure, it's spiritual movement. Heaven hath been activated on your behalf. The tremors beneath your circumstances have been traced, and divine protocols have been issued to dismantle what was sent to destroy you. I watched as the darkness closed in, as confusion tried to mimic clarity, as anxiety paraded as logic. But I also saw your resistance. I saw how you still called my name, even with trembling hands and a weary voice. That one whisper from your spirit carried more weight than the noise of 1,000 storms. And because of it, I launched something unstoppable. This is not a passive observation of your crisis, this is a holy invasion. You've been surrounded, yes, but not abandoned. You've been pressed, but never discarded. What tried to ground you has now triggered a divine counterstrike. I've released orders to override what the enemy scripted. Angelic forces are moving not just to protect, but to recover territory, recover peace, recover joy, recover time. Every delay you suffered has been reviewed, and every loss is now being weighed on scales not governed by this world. I am stepping in with justice where injustice grew like thorns around your progress. I'm not merely patching the broken places, I'm rebuilding what the storm tried to erase. You may not have seen the full force of it yet, but you'll begin to feel the atmosphere change. You'll start noticing interruptions in the patterns that once strained you. The cycle of almost but never is being shattered. The invisible wall that kept you contained is cracking, and I am the one placing my hand on those fractures to break them wide open. The whirlwind that kept spinning you in circles is losing power under the weight of my authority. I'm not letting this pass you by. The noise that confused your next step is being silenced. I'm clearing the smoke so you can finally see what's always been yours. And I'm not doing this quietly, I'm making a statement in the spirit realm that you are covered by the highest command. This isn't a random shift in energy, it's a documented intervention. What was weaponized against you has now become the very thing that's triggering your deliverance. I allowed the storm to rise just high enough for my glory to overshadow it completely. You will look back on this and realize that what you thought would finish you was only the signal for your rescue to begin. I've marked this moment on heaven's calendar, not as tragedy, but as turnaround. The one I am sending is stepping into the eye of your storm carrying not just wisdom, but jurisdiction. They are equipped with the authority necessary to walk you out of what swallowed others. They will speak into the storm and it will respond, not to them, but to me through them. You won't need to wrestle for stability anymore, I'm reestablishing your footing with permanence. This storm has exposed who was real, what was false, and who never had the capacity to carry your pain. But I'm not here to punish, I'm here to protect. And the protection I give comes with power. The forces that tried to overwhelm you are now under review, and the outcome is sealed. You will not be overtaken. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. This battle has reached heaven's attention, and from this point forward, you will witness the visible unraveling of every force that tried to bury you in silence. There is a limit to what I will allow, and your adversary has reached it. What was formed in darkness with the intent to dismantle you has now provoked my hand to move. You are not just anyone, you are the craftsmanship of heaven, shaped by divine intention, sculpted with my breath, and carved with purpose that no power of hell can annul. Every inch of your being was touched by me in creation. I didn't speak you into existence casually, I formed you with focus. Your tears, your thoughts, your inner wrestlings, they are not overlooked. They are sacred echoes of the life I placed within you. You are not a casualty waiting to happen, you are a chosen vessel under divine surveillance. I've seen the subtle attempts to wear you down from within, the slow erosion of confidence, the whispering lies masked as your own thoughts. The enemy's goal wasn't just to defeat you, it was to convince you you were already lost. But I'm stepping in now because I will not stand by and watch the masterpiece of my hands be torn apart by the counterfeit hand of destruction. What I made in secret will not be disassembled in silence. What I breathed into existence will not be smothered by shadows. The calling I wove into your spirit will not be diluted by doubt or derailed by warfare. I see what's been trying to consume your joy, devour your identity, strip your value, I see it all. And I am not indifferent. I am your creator, and your preservation is personal to me. I've assigned angels to stand guard over what you cannot see. I've stationed protection around your heart even when you've let your defenses down. This battle was never about your strength, it was always about mine. The enemy underestimated how fiercely I protect what is mine. And you, child, are mine. I have watched long enough. Now I am responding not with restraint, but with resolve. My voice is echoing into the camp of those who sought to dismantle your destiny, and my command is final. Enough. What once crept in unnoticed will now be exposed under the weight of my truth. What once tormented you in private will now be publicly crushed under my justice. You are not a playground for pain, you are a sanctuary for glory. And I will not let darkness take residence in a place I designed for light. The devourer thought your silence was consent, but I see your silence for what it truly was: exhaustion. And I'm not angry with your weariness, I'm moved by it. I will contend for you. I will fight where you can no longer stand. I will lift what you've tried to carry alone. You are not at the mercy of destruction, you are under the command of a king. And my kingdom does not tolerate the dismantling of its sons and daughters. The fire sent to burn you will now refine you. The attack meant to crush you will now crown you. I will use every part of what was meant to consume you as fuel for your rising. And I'm not waiting. The shift has already begun. The environment is already bending under the weight of my response. The atmosphere is trembling at the arrival of my justice. The helper I've chosen is already moving with divine instinct. They know this is not just a mission, it's a mandate. They are coming to shield what the enemy could not steal, to speak into what darkness could not kill, to stand beside the beauty that warfare could not erase. You were created by my hand, and I will protect what I have made. I always have. And now, I always will. You've grown used to the heaviness, adjusted your posture to accommodate what was never meant to be permanent. You've called it normal, but I've called it over. You've walked through days with a soul too weary to speak, a heart too burdened to beat freely, and a mind tangled in invisible ropes of pressure that no one else could see but I have. I've watched you compensate, overfunction, survive while smiling, endure while slowly fading. And now I've determined it's time to relieve the load. I've assigned someone not random, not convenient, not self-appointed, but chosen to come shoulder the part you can no longer bear. They won't just sympathize, they'll carry. They'll meet you in the trench without flinching, because they've been in one too. They've learned what it means to stand in shadows without losing their light, and now I've instructed them to walk toward yours. The journey to this moment hasn't been easy for them either. They fought private wars, cried unseen tears, and waited for my timing with trembling trust. And now, that timing is colliding with yours, because the weight that's been slowly crushing your hope must be lifted now. This isn't assistance for the sake of ease, it's rescue born from compassion. I've anointed them with understanding that doesn't come from books but from brokenness. They won't ask you to explain yourself. I will feel what you've hidden. I've synchronized their spirit with your condition, not to expose, but to engage. They won't treat your burdens as weakness. They'll treat them as signals pointing to the treasure I've hidden in you, still unclaimed, still intact. This isn't a favor, they are fulfilling their purpose in serving yours. And when they speak, the tightness in your chest will begin to loosen. When they touch your life, the ache will finally exhale. You won't have to qualify your pain. They've been prepared to respect the weight you've carried, not question why it's there. They will not rush your process, nor will they allow you to camp in survival. Their assignment is sacred, to help lift what's held you down without judgment, without control, without condition. I have placed an atmosphere around them when they enter your life. It will feel like standing under open skies after years of low ceilings. You'll breathe differently. You'll feel space in your soul again. You'll begin to notice the fog lifting, the tightness loosening, the shadows retreating. This is what happens when divine help arrives. They won't become your savior, but they will become a sign that I've seen every silent cry, every long night, every morning you woke up already tired. I couldn't ignore it any longer. This helper comes not with answers to everything, but with strength for the next step. They won't fix all the broken places. That's my job. But they will walk with you until you remember how to move again. You're not too far gone. You're not too much. You're not a burden. You've just carried too many things for too long by yourself. And now, by my command, Someone is coming to help you lift it. Not because you failed, but because you are worth fighting for. I'm not sending them to rescue your image, I'm sending them to revive your reality. You are not called to collapse under pressure. You are called to rise in power. And the help I'm sending is the beginning of that rising. You will no longer have to pretend you're fine. This is your permission to be carried for a while. Not forever, just until your wings remember how to fly. Everything that once stood in the way is now being removed with finality. Obstacles that resisted you for years are being dismantled, not by human effort, but by divine order. This moment has been authorized by heaven, and the forces that delayed your help are now retreating under the weight of my command. My angels have been dispatched, not just to protect but to prepare. They are going ahead of the one I'm sending, scattering confusion, silencing interference, binding every power that dared to block what I ordain. You've walked through seasons where it felt like forward movement always came with a setback, where progress was slow, then stolen. But not this time. This is different. This is sacred. This is sealed. There is no negotiation happening, this is execution. The warfare that swirled around your breakthrough has already lost its legal right to linger. My heavenly host is tearing through the unseen barriers, breaking invisible chains that tied up the timing of your turnaround. I've commanded winds of clearance to blow through the very terrain where demons tried to plant delay. What once was a tangled mess of spiritual resistance is now being straightened into a runway. The one I'm sending isn't walking through convenience, they're walking through cleared ground that my angels tread first. You may have felt like things were standing still, but behind the veil, movement has been nonstop. Angelic activity has increased because the weight of your deliverance demands accelerated preparation. They're not just guiding your help, they're warring for the space your help will occupy. The delays, detours, and closed doors you faced are not signs of divine disapproval, they were signs of spiritual conflict. The enemy fought hard to keep your breakthrough locked away, hoping you'd surrender before it arrived. But I have intervened. The delay is over. The fight to get what's yours is no longer in your hands, it's in mine. My angels are not passive light bearers. They are warriors with flaming assignments. They are sweeping the path not with brooms but with blazing swords. Every demonic whisper that tried to confuse your vision, every planted doubt that made you question my timing, every relational sabotage that attempted to drain your trust, it's all being removed. There's no more room for interference. This isn't a casual visitation. This is a divine deployment. The one I've chosen to carry my answer is being covered by my protection as they approach. Their steps have been recalibrated by revelation. Their path is not dictated by human maps, it's being lit by angelic instruction. And you must understand, this kind of movement isn't quiet in the spirit. Hell knows what's coming. That's why the pressure intensified. That's why your mind felt under attack. That's why everything felt harder right before this moment, because your deliverance was finally close enough to threaten everything that once oppressed you. But I didn't bring you this far to leave you battling alone. I've saturated the air around your future with my breath. The space they're walking into has been anointed ahead of their arrival. You won't need to fight for access, they are being given direct entry to your situation. I am orchestrating a collision between your need and my solution, and I'm not letting anything get in the way. Not fear, not pride, not distraction, not spiritual resistance. Every barrier is bowing to my sovereignty. And the reason I'm doing this with such urgency is because time can no longer be wasted. You waited long enough. You've paid the price in endurance. Now it's time for movement. Now it's time for divine intersection. What's coming is not late. It's not early. It's exactly on time because I sent my angels to make sure of it. They are clearing what your hands couldn't, moving what your prayers touched but couldn't lift. You are not being overlooked. You are being fought for. And the victory already sounds in the distance. What's approaching you now isn't a surface-level solution or a temporary patch for permanent wounds. This is a holy deployment, a mission calibrated in precision and urgency. I did not gather just anyone to respond to your situation. I have appointed someone who has been saturated in my presence, trained in the shadows of their own battles, and entrusted with sacred insight tailor-made for what you're walking through. They are not arriving empty-handed. They carry revelation deep enough to unearth the roots of your pain, strength sturdy enough to sustain you when your limbs give out, and strategy sharp enough to dismantle systems that tried to keep you trapped. Their wisdom isn't from textbooks or theory, it's forty from the flames I walked them through. Their life is their credibility, and their scars are their certificate. They've been through a furnace and emerged carrying blueprints not for survival, but for resurrection. You had advice before. You've heard words before. But this is different. This is divine instruction wrapped in compassion, truth wrapped in tenderness, correction carried by love that doesn't condemn. I've embedded in them the ability to see past your masks, past your performance, past your fatigue, and speak directly to the places you buried even from yourself. Your words will activate dormant purpose. Your presence will rebalance what trauma threw out of rhythm. Their strategy will not be vague, it will be detailed, timed, and backed by spiritual authority. They are arriving not to add pressure, but to release clarity. Not to compete with your voice, but to remind it that it still matters. This kind of rescue does not arrive rushed or random, it arrives righteous, sent on the exact day darkness assumed you'd finally give up. What I've placed in their hands is potent. They carry oil, not opinions. They bring instruction, not interference. Their presence will not distract, it will deliver. And I've prepared them to walk carefully but boldly. They will not barge into your life, they will knock gently, and your spirit will recognize them before your mind can explain it. There will be a moment of collision where your inner chaos will be confronted not harshly, but wholly. And in that moment, their strategy will begin to pour out, not as commands, but as keys unlocking what you thought was sealed for good. They've been equipped to see through confusion and identify patterns you didn't know you were repeating. This is not behavior modification. This is breakthrough movement. This is not therapy. This is transformation. You will not have to perform for them. They are not impressed by titles or intimidated by brokenness. They are sent for one thing: to deliver the next phase of your awakening. I chose them because they have survived what others drowned in. I chose them because they carry authority born in obedience. I chose them because they listened to me before speaking to you. And when they open their mouth, it will not sound like correction, it will sound like alignment. This isn't about fixing the past, it's about unlocking the future. What they release will not be optional. It will be catalytic. You will feel things fall off of you that you didn't know were attached. You will experience freedom, not as a theory, but as a tangible shift. I didn't call you into this season to let you collapse, I called you to encounter clarity that rearranges everything. And the one I'm sending has already been immersed in my mind. They come with maps for the roads you've been walking in circles. They don't just bring help, they bring heaven's plan, and the timing of their arrival will confirm that this is not a coincidence. This is not a guess. This is a strategic rescue, and you are the reason it's been released. You won't need a sign in the sky or a prophetic confirmation from someone else. You won't even need to ask, "Is this the one you sent, Lord?" Because peace will answer for them before they speak a word. When they step into your atmosphere, what's been turbulent within you will begin to settle, not because circumstances change instantly, but because something inside will suddenly feel safe again. And safety would come from comfort. It will come from alignment. What I'm sending isn't loud in volume, but it is thunderous in authority. Your presence carries my signature, subtle to the senses but undeniable to the soul. When they arrive, fear will begin to unravel, and the storm inside your chest will begin to dissolve without explanation. They are not coming to impress you, they are coming to reintroduce you to peace. Not temporary relief that fades after a conversation, but peace that anchors your identity and stills your inner storm. They are not peacekeepers, they are peacemakers. They carry stillness not because they've avoided chaos, but because they've survived it and learned how to carry my calm in the midst of confusion. You'll feel it when they look you in the eye, the way the anxiety in your bones will start to ease, the way your thoughts will slow, the way the need to defend yourself will quietly fall away. This is how I confirm my presence, not through noise, but through rest. Their arrival will demand your attention, it will disarm your fear. I've trained them not just to speak life, but to carry a stillness that arrests what has kept you on edge for far too long. They have walked through their own fires and didn't just survive, they absorbed my presence through every flame. And now, they carry that presence into the places where you've been searching for breath. You've been surrounded by activity, by advice, by agendas, but none of it brought real peace. This will be different. You won't feel the pressure to explain your pain when they are near, because they'll already know what words can't say. Their nearness will feel like stepping out of a storm into warm light. And you won't be able to explain it to others, because peace doesn't always make sense, it just makes everything different. That difference is me. That shift is my fingerprint. I've prepared them not only to enter your world, but to carry my presence into it like a balm. And what has been wounded by chaos will begin to heal in stillness. They are not coming to stir your emotions, they are coming to restore your foundation. The false peace you've gotten used to, the kind that depends on everything going right, will be replaced by the real thing, the kind that holds you steady even when everything still looks uncertain. They're not bringing the absence of trouble, they're bringing the presence of truth. And when that truth enters your space, everything trying to masquerade as stability will be exposed. You will no longer confuse numbness with calm. You will no longer settle for quiet that lacks substance. The moment you meet them, you'll realize that what you were craving wasn't just relief, it was refuge. And they bring that because they've been in my refuge themselves. They won't panic when you pour out your truth. They won't flee when you open up the depth of your ache. Their peace won't be shaken by your mess, because their peace was born in surrender. And they'll teach you not by lecture, but by living example how to live from that peace too. This isn't about making you feel better. It's about anchoring you in something unshakable. I am not sending a temporary distraction. I am sending a living testimony that peace isn't a feeling, it's a person. And when they show up, you will feel me in the room with them. Don't expect a grand entrance or dramatic revelation. This one is arriving clothed in quiet strength, in humility wrapped in sacred assignment. You've been surrounded by so many voices lately, opinions tossed like waves on an unsettled sea, and those echoes have only increased the pressure within you. The overthinking, the worry, the cycles of doubt that wake you up at midnight, all of it has been feeding a fear that's grown far louder than it ever should have. But now I am sending someone whose silence will speak louder than your chaos. They carry a stillness that doesn't beg for attention, but commands the atmosphere with a peace you didn't know you needed. They're not coming to prove anything. They're coming to be something, an embodiment of my assurance, my steadiness, my unwavering presence. The fear that's been hiding in the corners of your decisions will begin to loosen its grip the moment they step into your space. Not because they will say something magical, but because what they carry cannot coexist with torment. I've placed within them an authority that doesn't shout, it simply exists, and that existence displaces darkness. They're not loud, but they are lethal to lies. They don't argue, but they confront what's false with the sheer weight of what's real. They are walking proof that you can be powerful without being forceful, that you can change the temperature of a room just by entering with truth in your spirit. You've been bracing yourself for confrontation, for judgment, for correction, but this will feel like exhale. Their gaze will not pierce to wound, it will pierce to reveal. You won't feel exposed, you'll feel seen. And there is a difference. When they speak, they won't echo the noise that surrounded you, they will silence it. Their voice won't blend into the confusion, it will rise with clarity, cutting through doubt like a knife through fog. I've not trained them in value, I've trained them in vision. They don't need to raise their voice because I've already raised their spirit. I've given them eyes to see past the surface, to see what fear tried to distort, to call you back into alignment with who you were before anxiety made you forget. They will not rush you, and they will not be intimidated by the intensity of your condition. They've walked through battles where their own mind tried to convince them to quit, and they emerged with a grace that calms storms in others. That grace is what I've chosen for you. The panic that gripped your heart so tightly will begin to unravel when they sit beside you, when they pray over you, when they remind you through their actions, not just their words, that you are not alone and never were. Fear thrives in isolation, but their presence will reintroduce connection. You'll begin to believe again. You'll feel the tension in your shoulders drop. Your breathing will change. Your thoughts will stop racing. Not because the world around you became perfect, but because my presence will walk in through their life and shift the spiritual climate. I know how fear crept in. I know how it disguised itself as logic, how it pretended to protect you while actually paralyzing you. But this is where that ends. I'm not just casting fear out, I'm replacing it with peace, with courage, with connection. You don't have to figure it out alone anymore. I'm not asking you to be strong, I'm sending someone strong to stand beside you. You won't need to perform. You won't need to hide. You won't need to explain every emotion. They will know, because I've already told them. They will feel, because I've softened their heart with fire. And as they walk with you, you'll begin to notice what used to terrify you now barely whispers. That's what happens when I send my presence not in thunder, but in someone who walks softly and carries heaven within. What they carry didn't come cheaply, it was forged in the very places most people avoid. They know what it's like to feel the heat of disappointment, the scorch of betrayal, the slow burn of unanswered prayers. But they didn't come out bitter, they came out blazing with purpose. The reason they are able to walk into your fire without flinching is because they've stood in their own and survived. And not just survived, they absorbed revelation there. They found me there. And now, they carry what most cannot: peace and pressure, clarity and chaos, stillness in the smoke. You've been surrounded by the blaze, feeling like everything around you is being reduced to ashes, dreams that once stood strong, hopes that once had shape, strength that once seemed reliable. You've whispered, "Lord, will anything be left?" And my answer is already on its way, walking toward you cloaked in wisdom, marked by mercy, carrying authority birthed through affliction. They are not intimidated by the intensity of your situation, because they've learned how to find me in the middle of their own infernos. This is not someone guessing their way through your pain. This is someone who has been trained by fire to navigate others through it. They will not lecture you from the sidelines, they will step into the furnace beside you and remind you that there's another figure in the fire, one who doesn't abandon, one who doesn't observe from a distance, but one who joins the suffering and redeems it from the inside out. He won't offer escape, they will offer presence. And in that presence, things will begin to change. Not always visibly, not all at once, but profoundly, permanently, from the core outward. You've been conditioned to believe fire only destroys. But this fire was never sent to consume you, it was meant to refine you. And this messenger I'm sending knows how to pull gold from ashes. They see what remains when everything superficial burns away. They see the treasure still buried beneath the soot of your sorrow. And they are coming to uncover it not by force, but by faith. Their words will not fan the flames, they will quiet them. Their prayers will not just bring relief, they will bring revelation. You'll begin to recognize that not all fire is the enemy. Some fire is holy. Some fire is surgical. Some fire is purposed to expose what chains were hiding beneath polished appearances. And this, what you've been walking through, isn't the end of your story. It's the ignition of your becoming. The one I'm sending carries oil to anoint the places that have been burned raw. They won't avoid your wounds, they'll honor them. They won't ask you to rush past your pain, they'll walk at your pace, speaking life with every step. This is the rescue I designed, not to pull you from the fire prematurely, but to walk you through it into transformation. They won't ask you to pretend. They won't ask you to perform. They will simply hold up the mirror of truth and let you see yourself not as damaged, but as delivered in process. They carry language that will articulate what your tears have been trying to say. They carry insight that will help you interpret the season that tried to confuse your identity. And most of all, they carry my spirit, the very presence that turns furnaces into sanctuaries. You won't come out of this reeking of smoke, you will come out shining with a radiance forged in holy fire. This is not the end. This is the middle of the miracle. And the one I've sent is stepping into your fire, not to pull you out in haste but to walk you out in victory, one sacred step at a time. You've walked through the same hallway too many times, doors that looked new but led to old places, decisions that started with hope and ended in familiar frustration. You've cried, "Why does this keep happening?" And I've heard the question rise like a desperate echo, wrapped in shame and exhaustion. But what you haven't seen is that these cycles weren't about your failure, they were signals of a deeper spiritual entanglement that needed divine intervention. You were never lazy. You were not stubborn. You were bound in places that human effort could not touch. Patterns don't break because of willpower alone. They break when authority enters. And that's why I'm sending someone who carries more than encouragement. They carry keys. Not keys made of advice, but spiritual tools forged through obedience and revelation. These aren't ordinary keys, they are specific to the locks that have kept you looping in places of false starts, emotional exhaustion, relational sabotage, and internal conflict. They've seen these chains before, and they know how to identify the root, not just the symptoms. You've been trying to fix what only freedom can heal, and freedom requires access. The one I'm sending has access not to manipulate, but to liberate. They've walked out of their own cycles, not perfectly, but persistently, and I taught them how to dismantle strongholds without shame. They are not coming to shame you for your patterns, they are coming to partner with you to end them. They are fluent in the language of breakthrough. They won't flinch when you reveal your frustration, nor will they minimize the battles that wear you down daily. They know how heavy it is to carry repetition that doesn't lead anywhere. And they carry blueprints that you haven't seen, maps to paths you didn't know existed. They will speak with authority, not volume. They will act with compassion, not pity. Their words will unlock mental prisons. Their prayers will tear down spiritual barricades, and their presence will create space for healing to flow where cycles once ruled. I have not only given them discernment, I have given them timing. They are arriving exactly when your exhaustion threatened to turn into resignation. You've come close to settling, almost convinced yourself this loop was your portion. But I refused to let you live in a loop when I designed you for legacy. You were never meant to orbit the same pain endlessly. You were never meant to repeat what your bloodline couldn't break. I have chosen you to end what began before you were even born. But I also knew you'd need help. That's why this isn't just encouragement, it's rescue. I'm sending someone who carries what you need to interrupt the inertia. They will recognize the cycle the moment they see it, not because they are wise on their own, but because I've opened their eyes to see with spiritual precision. You will no longer be controlled by invisible patterns. You will no longer rise only to fall again. This is where it ends. This is where it breaks. Not because of force, but because of alignment. They will not force their way in, but if you let them close, you will feel the cycle begin to lose its grip. I am doing this because your destiny requires movement. Your purpose cannot afford another round of delay. And your identity has already outgrown this rotation. I'm calling you into rhythm, not repetition. I'm calling you into progress, not paralysis. And the one I've called is already walking toward you, keys in hand, fire in their spirit, and freedom in their footsteps. Prepare your heart to receive them not as a crutch, but as a confirmation that I've seen every silent battle. You are not stuck. You are not cursed. You are not forgotten. You are in the middle of a divine intervention, and the locks that held you are about to hear the sound of unlocking. You've tried to build wholeness from fragments, to stand tall with broken beams in your foundation. You've used what you had, and I've honored it, but I never asked you to do it alone. There have been pieces missing, not because you failed to find them, but because they were never meant to come from your own hands. There were gaps only grace could fill, voids shaped specifically for divine supply. And now, I'm sending someone whose very presence will reveal that what you thought was lost has only been waiting for the right carrier to arrive. They don't come to add to your load, they come to restore what was stolen, forgotten, or never given to you in the first place. You've learned how to survive with half your strength, how to show up while missing core parts of your confidence, joy, and trust. But I never meant for you to function while fragmented. I created you for wholeness. The one I'm sending comes equipped not just with words, but with impartation. There's something in their life, an overflow, a portion, a deposit that was never meant to stay with them. It was cultivated, refined, and multiplied so that it could be poured into you. They carry in their hands the pieces that align with your healing, not just emotionally but spiritually, mentally, relationally. They have the missing notes to the song your soul had been trying to sing in silence. They bring clarity where you've wrestled with confusion, nourishment where you've been starving for understanding, and courage where your hope has grown timid. I gave them what you need, not to elevate them over you, but to extend my kindness through them. This is how I build the body. I let one carry what another can't reach, and when they meet, restoration begins to take shape. Don't resist them out of pride or fear. You've protected yourself so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to be poured into without expectation. But this is different. They are not coming to take from you. They are coming to deposit. Your oil is not for sale. Their wisdom is not transactional. Their love is not conditional. I have placed within them a heart that sees you through my eyes, a spirit that listens before it speaks, and hands that were formed to heal not just with touch, but with time, presence, and faithfulness. You'll notice how they don't rush your process. You'll feel the way they carry peace into pressure, the way they show up consistently in a world full of inconsistencies. And slowly, almost without realizing it, you'll start to feel the pieces coming back together. Not in an instant, not with fireworks, but like dawn breaking after a long, sleepless night. You'll start to remember who you are, not because they told you, but because they treated you like you never stopped being it. They will remind you of your worth without speaking a word. Your loyalty will be louder than their promises. They'll give you space to breathe, not just because they care, but because they've learned that real healing can't happen in suffocating environments. And make no mistake, this is healing, not a temporary high. This is repair, not relief. I didn't just send them to make you feel better. I sent them to release what you were missing so you could be rebuilt in strength, not just bandaged in silence. You don't have to settle for partial anymore. You don't have to pretend that what you lost wasn't important. I saw what was taken. I saw what was never given. I saw how you learned to minimize your own need just to function. But now, I am answering those deficits with abundance. I am sending someone who holds part of your recovery in their obedience. And they are not late. They are arriving in divine rhythm, holding gifts wrapped in humility and wisdom born from the same wounds you've hidden. When they open their hands to you, you'll feel it, the return of what was missing. And that moment will mark the beginning of a wholeness you were always meant to walk in. Not a single tear has touched your skin without catching my attention. I've watched them fall quietly while no one noticed, seen them sink into your pillow in the night, each one telling a story no language could ever express. Those tears were never wasted. They were not evidence of weakness, they were sacred messages your spirit sent when words failed. You didn't just cry out of pain, you cried in surrender, in hunger for something deeper, in weariness so raw that even your own soul couldn't find the right questions to ask. And I collected every drop. I held them, counted them, read them. Heaven does not ignore the language of lament. Your tears became scrolls, and those scrolls became instructions. Instructions I sealed into the spirit of someone who would be the response you didn't know how to request. They are coming not as a coincidence, not as a temporary comfort, but as a living answer to your cries. Every ache in your chest, every sigh that felt like giving up, those were the blueprints for the assignment I gave them. They will carry empathy that feels like recognition, not pity. They will carry wisdom shaped by their own dark nights so that they never minimize yours. They are not coming to simply remind you that I heard you, they are the proof that I have. What you wept about in secret, I prepared in silence. Their journey to you was carved by obedience to whispers they didn't understand at first. I placed your pain in their heart, not to crush them, but to prepare them. Long before they knew your name, they felt your burden. And they responded not with avoidance, but with surrender. They agreed to be sent before they ever knew where. And now, I am releasing them because your tears have finished writing the instructions, and the mission is in motion. This is how intimately I love you. I didn't just listen. I acted. I didn't just comfort. I commissioned. I didn't just witness your pain. I translated it into someone else's purpose. And that person is on the way. They won't look like what you expect, because your pain created a unique mold that only one soul could fit. And they've been shaped in secret just for this moment. Their presence will feel strangely familiar, like you've known them longer than time would allow. That's because your tears were already woven into their assignment before you ever met. Their words will carry weight not because of eloquence, but because of origin. You'll recognize the difference the moment they speak, not just because of what they say, but because of what their voice does. It will calm the agitation that's lingered in your spirit for too long. It will settle the tension that even prayer sometimes couldn't soothe. They won't come to replace me. They come to reveal me in a form your current pain can receive. I am spirit, but I've always used people. I sent Moses. I sent Esther. I sent Elijah. I sent Mary. I sent the disciples. And now I'm sending someone to you. This is not about saving you, it's about stirring you back to strength. You are not a project. You are not a pity case. You are a divine assignment, chosen to be healed, not just helped. I've delayed this moment until now, not because you weren't ready to receive, but because I was preparing someone who would never mishandle what you cried for. They carry your answer not in perfection, but in presence. And that presence was born from the blueprint written in your weeping. You didn't know you were writing a mission with your tears, but I did. And I have answered. This is how I heal with depth. I don't send observers, I send survivors. The one I'm releasing toward you doesn't carry sympathy from a distance, they carry experience carved into the marrow of their soul. They know the terrain of heartbreak not by map, but by memory. They've bled in the same places you've been silently wounded. They've walked the same alleys of confusion, wrestled in the same midnight agony where questions outnumbered answers. They are not strangers to despair, but they didn't drown there. They rose not perfectly, not instantly, but steadily with me. And I've preserved their story, not for fame, but for you. Because I knew you wouldn't need theories, you'd need truth wrapped in flay. I knew that for you to trust again, you'd need someone who didn't just understand pain, but who carries proof that resurrection is possible even after identity has been shattered. They were broken, but not abandoned. They were crushed, but not discarded. And now, they return from their wilderness with a strength that doesn't shout, but steadies, with eyes that see further than appearances, and with hands that know how to hold gently without dropping what's fragile. I've given them insight not to analyze you, but to accompany you. They're not coming with easy answers, they're coming with holy presence. And that presence is saturated with wisdom born from wounds. There's no shame in where you're struggling, because I've already placed someone on assignment who has lived there, sat in that darkness, and now carries the light you didn't know how to reach. This is not coincidence, it's divine symmetry. I match pain with understanding. I match brokenness with those who carry the oil of healing from the same fracture. You don't need someone to pity you, you need someone who sees you. And that's what I've arranged. They won't need a long explanation. They won't expect a filtered version of your struggle. Their spirit will recognize yours because pain taught them a language only the hurting can speak fluently. And they've been asking me, Lord, who is this for? And I've whispered your name, over and over, in their dreams, in their prayers, in the ache that won't go away until they find you. That ache is holy. That ache is directional. That ache is how they'll know when they've arrived. And you'll know too. Because for the first time in a long time, you'll feel safe. Not safe to hide, safe to be known. Your story isn't identical, but it's woven with the same thread. And what you feared would isolate you will become the bridge that connects you. I've always been a God who redeems suffering not by erasing it, but by using it. I do not waste what hurt you. I transform it into healing for someone else. And now, someone else's healing will become your doorway into hope again. You're not alone. You were never too far gone. You didn't mess up beyond my ability to restore. The very evidence of that truth is now walking toward you, full of history and humility, unshaken by your process, unwavering in their mission. I chose them because they would never look down on you. I chose them because they carry the same scars you've been hiding. And they carry them openly, not as badges of shame, but as banners of survival. They are the embodiment of my mercy in motion. You've cried for someone who would just get it, someone who wouldn't flinch at the depth of what you've carried, someone who wouldn't rush your journey or recoil from your truth. And I heard that cry, and I answered with someone shaped by fire, softened by grace, and armed with peace. You will not be misunderstood this time. You will not be overlooked. I'm not just sending someone who knows theology, I'm sending someone who knows pain and victory, someone who remembers what it's like to be where you are and who will walk with you, every step, until you remember how to walk again too. You won't need to hide what hurts. You won't have to sanitize your story to be accepted. The one I'm sending knows how to walk through pain without needing to dissect it. They won't analyze your trauma like a project. They will sit with you in the weight of it and remind you that even shattered things still have sacred worth. They're not coming to inspect your broken places, they are coming to honor them. Because they've lived through the same aching silence, the same haunting memories, the same longing for someone who would just stay without turning away. I made sure they didn't skip their own process of healing because I needed them to carry authenticity, not just wisdom. They know the ache of being misunderstood, the sting of being overlooked, the despair of feeling like healing is always promised but never fully delivered. And still, they remained in my presence. They didn't fast-track their journey, they let me walk them through every hidden corner of their pain. They let me restore them slowly, layer by layer. And now, they don't carry pity, they carry power. But not the kind that boasts. The kind that enters quietly and makes space for others to heal without shame. They've learned to see scars not as blemishes, but as stories that survived the fire. That's why I trust them with you. I've allowed their own wounds to teach them how to respond to yours, not with hesitation, but with humility. They'll know how to sit with your silence without rushing it. They'll know how to respond when words won't come, because they remember the weight of carrying pain that didn't have language. They will not shrink back when your truth spills out raw and unfiltered. They'll honor it like sacred ground, because they know that holiness often hides in vulnerability. This is why I didn't send someone who hasn't been through anything. I sent someone who has walked with me through storms that nearly took them under. They've wept, wrestled, doubted, and still said yes. That kind of yes doesn't fade. It strengthens. It deepens. It softens. And now, he arrives in your life not to instruct you, but to walk beside you until your own yes resurfaces from beneath the rubble. You won't need to wear masks anymore. You won't have to pretend that you're fine when you're crumbling. They'll see through the layers without violating your process. They'll speak gently where others have shouted. They'll wait when others have pushed. Because what they carry is not performance, it's presence. They know how to be near without needing to fix. And their nearness will start to mend the very parts of you that broke when no one stayed long enough to help you hold them. Their scars will speak silently to yours, saying, "You are not alone. You are not beyond repair. You are still worthy of love." You'll feel safety in their company, not because they avoid truth, but because they carry it without a blade. They carry it like balm. Your story may not match yours detail for detail, but the essence will. And that essence will reach you in ways no speech ever could. I prepared them to walk slowly, to carry kindness like firelight, warming what's been cold in your spirit. They will not question why it hurts, they will simply hold space for the healing to begin. I'm sending someone who knows how to kneel with the broken, not just pray for them from a distance. They understand what it feels like to bleed emotionally and still smile publicly. And that understanding is not their weakness, it's the oil they carry. When they sit with you, you'll feel the presence of one who understands without words. And that presence will not be intimidating, it will be invitation. A call to return to the parts of yourself you locked away. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. I'm sending someone who sees beyond the wound and calls forth the wonder. You've been there and they've come back carrying something sacred just for you. There are things inside you that have lived in silence for too long, questions you didn't know how to ask, emotions you didn't have permission to release, wounds you didn't think anyone would understand if you dared to reveal them. You've mastered the art of keeping things buried, packaging your pain into acceptable forms, rehearsing strength for a world that doesn't see the weight behind your endurance. But I see it all. And I know there are places in you that language has never been able to reach, regions of your heart so layered in ache that even prayer felt like too much. That's why I am sending someone who will not just speak to you, but speak for you. My spirit has whispered your hidden thoughts into their soul. I've given them phrases you never dared utter out loud, truths you've choked down out of fear of being too much, too deep, too complicated to be received. They will carry words that find you in the unspoken spaces. They will open their mouth, and you will feel the pressure inside your chest start to break, not because they figured you out, but because I gave them what only I could know. This is not emotional coincidence. This is holy communication. I am placing supernatural articulation in their voice. They will declare what you couldn't explain, name what you couldn't describe, and untangle the web of feelings that even you couldn't decipher. Their mouth will carry my breath. Not because they are better, but because they are yielded. They didn't ask for this ability, they were entrusted with it. Because I needed someone willing to speak with reverence, not arrogance. They won't speak over you. They will speak with you, aligning heaven's vocabulary with your heart's quiet cries. I've chosen someone who knows what it feels like to be unheard, unseen, misread. And that history has softened them, shaped them, purified their tongue to carry not just sound but salvation. Your voice will be a vessel, and you'll feel it like water hitting dry ground the moment they speak what you thought you'd never be able to say. Your soul will respond before your mind catches up. You'll feel tears rise not from sadness but from release. Because finally, someone will echo the groan your spirit has carried alone for years. And that echo is no accident, it's the signal that heaven has found you. I am giving them vocabulary for your valley. They are coming with language that lifts, not lectures. When they speak, it won't just be revelation, it will be recognition. You'll hear your own heart translated through their obedience. And that moment will be the beginning of deliverance, not because something magical is spoken, but because you will finally be heard by me through them. I am dismantling the belief that your story is too much. I am breaking the lie that silence is safer. I am undoing the agreement you made with hiding. And I'm doing it gently through someone who will speak with such precise compassion that shame won't be able to survive in the room. They will not weaponize what you reveal. They will not shrink back when your truth comes undone. They will not misuse their access, because they have paid a price for the kind of voice they carry. It was birthed in surrender, not ambition. That's why I trust them to carry my sound for you. You'll feel it when they speak. It won't just enter your ears. It will land in your soul, like a letter finally delivered to the right address after years of delay. Don't be surprised when you weep. Don't apologize for the floodgates that open. It's not weakness, it's the weight of divine language entering places that have been waiting for years to be acknowledged. This is the mercy of your Father. This is the answer you didn't know how to request. I'm sending a voice to reach where silence grew too heavy, and that voice will carry my heart for you, exactly as you've needed to hear it. You've been trained by disappointment to expect either too little or too much. You've either settled for what seems safe, or demanded proof of flawless strength before allowing anyone close. But the one I'm sending will not come polished in the way the world measures worth. They will not match every expectation your defenses have constructed. They might look ordinary, speak softly, or even stumble when they first try to connect. And that's where I want your heart to listen deeper, beneath the appearance, beneath the presentation, beneath the packaging. Because what they carry isn't in their perfection, it's in my presence flowing through them. Don't let old patterns talk you out of new healing. If you scan them for flaws, you will find them. If you measure them against human ideals, they may come up short. But if you open your spirit to discernment, you'll recognize something holy in atmosphere, a warmth, a quiet depth that touches you without explanation. That's me. That's what I've placed inside them. Not noise, not performance, not grandiosity, but the quiet authority of someone who had been with me. They are not coming to oppress you. They are coming to carry me into the places you didn't even realize were still locked. And yes, they will be human. They will still be learning. But what makes them sacred in this assignment is not how refined they appear, it's how surrendered they are. They will walk with questions of their own, with tender places of process, but they will never let their imperfection get in the way of obedience. And because of that, my presence will rest on them like a mantle. You'll know it when you're with them. Your heart will settle, not because you understand everything, but because you sense me in the space between. I'm asking you now, don't idolize an image. Don't let your wounds demand a version of help that doesn't exist. Help rarely looks like a savior. It often looks like a person who limps but keeps walking anyway. This is who I'm sending. Someone who doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but knows how to find me when they don't. Someone who doesn't need the spotlight, but shines with a light that doesn't go out in storms. Someone who listens more than they speak, prays more than they post, and shows up even when it's inconvenient. Your strength isn't in being flawless, it's in being faithful. You won't feel small around them. You won't feel examined. You will feel safe, because their humility will make room for my spirit to move freely between you. I didn't call them because they were the strongest. I called them because they were willing, and their willingness unlocked grace for your restoration. If you wait for perfection, you'll miss what I've anointed. If you expect performance, you'll overlook presence. And I don't want you to miss this. I am asking you to look deeper. Let your spirit pay attention to the fruit, not the frame. Watch how peace follows their footsteps. Watch how clarity returns when they speak. Watch how fear loosens its grip when they pray, not because their words are dramatic, but because they carry authority that only comes from surrender. They will not demand your trust, but they will earn it, moment by moment, simply by being consistent. And that consistency will begin to undo the lies that told you no one would ever stay. They will not rescue you, but they will remain with you while I do. They won't fix your past, but they will remind you that you still have a future. This is the person I have chosen. Not perfect, but present. Not flawless, but faithful. And if you can see me in them, you'll begin to see me in you again. Because this is how I heal, not through polished performances, but through presence. Mine, theirs, and eventually, yours, rediscovered, renewed, and restored in the space where love replaces perfection, and grace becomes the greatest gift. What was coming for you had such divine importance that hell itself attempted to interfere. There were delays you didn't see, distractions you didn't detect, and spiritual battles you didn't feel, but I saw them all, and I refused to allow obstruction to stand between you and the one I've anointed for this moment. You wondered why things felt stalled, why relief seemed close yet unreachable, why the right help never quite made it through. What you didn't know is that forces were working overtime to detour the one carrying your breakthrough, because darkness recognized what you hadn't even fully discerned, that when the two of you finally collided, chains would start snapping. The enemy didn't fear their charisma, he feared their calling. He feared what would be awakened in you when their obedience touched your hunger. He feared what would happen when two wounded, willing hearts aligned under my authority. So, yes, attempts were made to detour, delay, distract, even discourage the one I appointed to come to you. But what I ordained cannot be overruled. I shattered timelines. I disrupted plans. I silenced accusations and circumvented systems to clear a path for their rival. I broke protocol not because I am reckless, but because I am relentless about you. You are too important to me. Your healing is not optional. Your restoration is non-negotiable. So I intervene. I eroded them through fire. I redirected them around betrayal. I walked with them through silence, through struggle, through solitude, so they would arrive refined not just for themselves, but for you. Every delay they faced was repurposed as training. Every closed door they hit became another layer of preparation. Because when they finally show up, they won't just arrive, they will carry everything needed to meet you where your soul has stalled. Don't assume their journey was smooth. It wasn't. It was warfare. It was uphill. It was personal. But they didn't give up because I wouldn't let them. They tried to reason with me. God, I don't know where I'm going. But I kept whispering your name. Even when they didn't know you yet, their spirit was stirred for someone waiting, someone crying out, someone hanging on by a thread. That someone was you. And so I pushed them forward. I cleared the path. I closed off every counterfeit assignment that tried to keep them stuck in places too small for their calling. Because I couldn't afford for them to miss you. And now, the timing is right. They are arriving with divine urgency, not because they are rushing, but because what you've carried for too long can no longer wait. The enemy tried to stall their obedience, but I reign over time. I accelerated what was necessary. I overturned every lie they believe about their worth, their readiness, their capacity to be used again. I washed their feet in grace, crowned them with resolve, and whispered one more instruction. Go. Lay ready. And now here they come, not in pride, but in power. Not in perfection, but in purpose. Not overshadowed by Versailles. You've waited, and they've wandered, but now both journeys converge under the weight of my will. This is bigger than a meeting, it's a collision of destinies the enemy never wanted fulfilled. That's why I had to move. That's why I had to break through dimensions of resistance. Because what you need and what they carry must finally meet. And when they arrive, don't look at the road behind them, look at the fire they carry from having walked it. They will not come empty. They will not come confused. They will come prepared. And everything that tried to separate you will lose its grip the moment their obedience touches your desperation. I broke protocol because love is louder than law, and I could not bear to let the assignment be intercepted. I sent them for you, and now, nothing will stop them from getting there. You've experienced too many brief moments of relief that never lasted, too many flickers of hope that faded before they had time to burn. And I know what that's done to your trust. I've watched you brace yourself for loss even in the middle of blessings, silently wondering when the next disappointment would arrive. But this time, it's different. This is not a fleeting visitation. This is not a feel-good moment designed to pass. What I'm releasing into your life now is not seasonal, it's foundational. It's the start of something new that cannot be reversed. I'm not sending someone to soothe you, I'm sending someone to shift you. Permanently. This is not a high followed by another low. This is a line drawn in the spirit that marks the end of cycles and the beginning of alignment. The one I've anointed for you isn't coming to be a temporary voice there, carrying the blueprint of your next chapter. They are arriving with divine permission to anchor you where everything once felt unstable. This intervention isn't a moment, it's a movement. And you'll feel it. You'll feel the ground under your feet settle. You'll feel the tension you normalized begin to lift. You'll sense a reordering of your thoughts, a refreshing of your perspective, and a revival of things within you that once lay dormant. What I'm releasing now is not meant to pass through your life, it's meant to stay and build. Because what's coming next for you requires solid ground, not survival mode. You've spent enough time holding things together with sheer willpower. But now I am establishing something that will collapse under pressure. This is not relief, it's reconstruction. I'm giving you a new foundation, and I'm using their presence to help lay the first stones. They don't come with bricks of control or mortar of manipulation. They come with words that will become walls of safety, vision that will become windows of light, and prayers that will become the ceiling under which you will finally feel safe enough to breathe. You've been in constant response mode, responding to crisis, responding to trauma, responding to people who never stayed long enough to understand the battle behind your silence. But from this point forward, you will shift from response to residence. I am building you a new place to stand emotionally, spiritually, relationally, and I'm using this intervention to start the process. You won't feel like you're losing control, you'll feel like you're gaining peace. I will quiet the storms that have stormed within, not just around. Because this time, I'm not fixing what broke, I'm replacing what wasn't strong enough to begin with. And the one I'm sending has been prepared not to fix you, but to build with you. This is not rescue from a pit, it's revelation of a path. It's not a miracle that lifts you out only to leave you wondering what comes next. It's a divine partnership that holds you while we rebuild. The dust will begin to clear. The clutter will begin to fall away. What felt like fog will turn into focus. You'll begin to dream again, not because your circumstances changed overnight, but because I'm changing you. At the cellular level of your soul, I am rewriting your atmosphere. I am restructuring what you believe you deserve. I am reclaiming what fear told you to surrender. And I'm doing it through this holy intervention that is not going to disappear when the feelings fade. This is longevity wrapped in divine timing. This is permanence born from heaven's plans. This is the start of your stability. I'm anchoring you in grace, establishing you in truth, and surrounding you with people who won't walk away when the season gets hard. The days of temporary fixes and shallow connections are over. What begins now is meant to last. This is the shift that changes everything. The weight you've carried has become so familiar that you've forgotten what it feels like to walk without dragging invisible chains. You've adjusted your pace, altered your posture, and managed your days under pressure that was never meant to be permanent. You've grown so accustomed to heaviness that peace now feels like a stranger. But what I'm sending is not just a person, it's a presence wrapped in human form, a divine release cloaked in humility. And the moment they step near you, something will begin to shift. Even before their mouth opens, before you exchange names, before you share your history, your burden will start to move. It won't be because they offered you a solution, it will be because they carried me into your atmosphere. My spirit rests upon them so heavily that oppression can't coexist with their presence. Chains begin to tremble at their footsteps. Fear starts to loosen its grip simply because they've entered the room carrying an anointing specifically for your breakthrough. They won't have to identify what's wrong in you. They won't scan your heart for flaws. They will simply walk in obedience, and my spirit will begin to do what it's always done: lift what crushes, break what binds, and scatter what suffocates. I chose them not just for their wisdom, but for their weight. They carry a holy stillness that dismantles strongholds. They walk softly, but their steps are thunder in the unseen realm. The atmosphere shifts when they enter, not because of charisma, but because of covenant. And that shift is what will meet you first. You'll feel it like wind moving through a room that had grown stale. You'll feel it like light hitting spaces that had grown dark. You won't need an introduction to understand what's happening. Your soul will recognize that something ancient and divine has touched the air around you. It will feel like something that was holding you for years has suddenly lost its grip. The lie that wrapped itself around your worth will begin to dissolve. The shame you kept wearing like armor will start to fall away. And you won't even know why you're breathing differently, you'll just know you can. This is what happens when my presence walks in through the life of someone who's been shaped in surrender. They're not bringing noise, they are bringing alignment. And everything inside you that's been twisted by trauma, contorted by survival, and compressed by disappointment will begin to stretch again. Not by force, but by freedom. I'm not sending them to impress you, I'm sending them to release you. They may not even understand the full weight of their assignment. But I do. Because I'm the one who put it in their bones. I'm the one who wrote your name on their spirit before they ever knew your face. I'm the one who breathed into their waiting so they could carry peace into yours. You will not need to explain your pain for the atmosphere to respond. Their arrival will carry the authority to command what's been holding you to let go. Your body may weep before your voice speaks. Your heart may open before your mind understands. Don't resist it, let it happen. It's not emotionalism, it's spiritual release. I am giving you rest, and I am using this moment to do what your strength could never accomplish alone. You've cried for the burden to lift, begged for the weight to break, hoped for something real to reach the ache you could never articulate. And this is it. This is me, answering with a person who will carry no agenda except love, no script except truth, and no power except mine. What you've been carrying will begin to fall before a word is spoken, because their presence is evidence of my promise, and my promise is freedom. I've never been late, not once. Even in the times you felt forgotten, even when it looked like nothing was moving, I was orchestrating timing with a precision your eyes couldn't trace. What felt like silence was actually strategy. What you perceived as delay was divine restraint. I've seen your desperation build, your faith tremble, your questions pile up like stones too heavy to carry. And while you wondered if I was distant, I was aligning the arrival of something so sacred, it had to wait until your heart could hold it. I could have sent your help sooner, but if I had, you might have rejected it. You weren't the problem, but your environment, your understanding, your emotional posture still needed to shift so you could recognize the gift without pushing it away. So I waited, not out of cruelty but out of compassion. I didn't want you to misuse what was sent to mend you. I didn't want you to shrink back from a presence meant to lift you. I knew exactly how much pruning your spirit needed to fully receive what I had been preparing. You see, true deliverance isn't just about timing, it's about readiness. And you're finally there. Not because you're perfect, but because you've been refined. Because you've surrendered pieces you used to protect. Because you've laid down the masks, loosened the control, admitted your need, and stopped pretending you had nothing left to unlearn. That surrender is what made this the right time. You're not being rescued in weakness, you're being entrusted in maturity. I waited until the soil of your heart was soft enough to receive healing without resistance, until your soul was quiet enough to hear me without interruption. And now, what you once would have called interruption, you'll call intervention. You've tried to create openings where I never asked you to dig. You've tried to force progress in rooms I never authorized. And each closed door crushed your spirit a little more, until you mistook delay for denial. But I never said no. I said not yet. I said I'm protecting you from settling for something shallow when I'm preparing something sacred. You were being punished, you were being preserved. The one I've chosen for this moment, the person I've hidden, prepared, refined, is not a product of rushed process. They too had to grow. They had to bleed. They had to be stripped of their own misconceptions before they could hold space for yours. They had to be made new before they could carry what would make you whole. Their timing is part of your testimony, and your journey is part of theirs. I didn't bring them sooner because you weren't just waiting on them, they were waiting on you. Waiting for your walls to lower. Waiting for your defenses to soften. Waiting for your hunger to outweigh your fear. This moment, this convergence, it is divine, deliberate, and full of destiny. Every second of silence was soaked in meaning. I heard every prayer you whispered with a cracked voice and a guarded heart. I felt every moment you begged for change but feared what change might cost. I was there when you started preparing without even knowing what you were preparing for. And now, look around. The room has changed. The atmosphere has shifted. Not because you manipulated anything, but because you matured into it. You finally outgrown the survival that once kept you safe, but made you small. And now you're ready. Ready for connection that doesn't come with strings. Ready for healing that doesn't come with shame. Ready for help that doesn't make you feel helpless. You're ready for someone who won't just see what's strong about you, but who will understand what still aches underneath. This delay was your deliverance in disguise. And now, as everything aligns, you'll realize that what once felt like God's absence was actually His accuracy. I waited not to hurt you, but to make sure this moment heals you in ways that last. Every detail had been divinely synchronized. Every turn you took that felt like a detour, every season that felt like delay, every connection that broke before it could blossom, it was all part of a greater choreography. I've been moving quietly in the background, lining what felt scattered and fragmented into one seamless moment of convergence. You may have doubted the pattern. You may have assumed things were unraveling, falling apart. But in my hands, nothing is wasted. Every missed opportunity was a redirection toward the right assignment. Every not yet was making room for never again moments of wholeness. I did not let anything die in vain. I did not let you walk through confusion without cause. And now, as this ordained encounter unfolds, you will begin to see what I was arranging all along. This meeting is not a coincidence, it's a collision. A holy intersection where destiny meets readiness, where what's been growing in the dark finally comes to light. The one I'm sending didn't just wander into your life. They were ushered in on the wings of obedience. Their steps have been measured, their timing refined, their heart tested, and their hands filled with exactly what this hour demands. This is not a general blessing. This is a targeted move. I've matched their journey to your need, their experiences to your questions, their insight to your hidden wrestlings. They won't have to search for what to say or wonder how to respond, because I've already whispered into them what your soul has been waiting to hear. They are not just coming to encourage you. They are arriving to awaken you, to unlock chambers of you that have long been sealed off by fear, grief, or disappointment. This alignment isn't just horizontal, it's vertical. Heaven is leaning into this connection. My presence will hover over every word exchanged, every silence shared, every prayer whispered between breaths. What I have ordained in this alignment cannot be undone by past trauma, personal insecurity, or spiritual interference. I've guarded this moment with angels. I've protected it with delay. I've preserved it with patience. Time has been redeemed. What you thought was lost is returning, not in the same form, but in fullness. The years that felt like waste are now becoming seeds for revelation. Places in you that you assumed would never feel again will begin to stir. This is not just about healing, it's about commissioning. Because what I'm doing in you now isn't just personal, it's prophetic. This encounter will leave a mark not only on your heart, but on your future. Decisions will begin to clarify. Strength will start to return. Vision will sharpen. The fog that lingered for so long will lift in layers, and in its place will come divine focus. Even the place you're in right now, physically, emotionally, spiritually, it's not random. I've positioned you precisely where the intersection had to happen. You didn't miss it. You didn't mess it up. I slowed it down so you could fully receive it. Because this kind of encounter isn't about speed, it's about substance. And I'm pouring something through this connection that will outlast emotional highs and survive spiritual warfare. You won't walk away wondering what it meant. You will walk away knowing you met me in someone who carries my heart like it was carved into them through fire. They are not coming with answers to everything. They are coming with enough light for the next step. And that step will lead to another, and another, until what once felt like circles becomes a path. Until what once felt like chaos becomes clarity. You don't need to be afraid of what's next. I've already been there. I've walked ahead of you to make sure nothing could sabotage this alignment. And I promise you nothing will be wasted. Not the tears. Not the waiting. Not the pain. Not even the moments you thought disqualified you. It all leads here. And here is where heaven touches earth, and everything starts to make sense again. You've carried memories like anchors, not because you wanted to stay stuck, but because no one ever helped you release what was never meant to define you. You've lived tethered to experiences that silently reshape the way you love, the way you trust, the way you dream. So much of your present posture has been molded by what broke you back then. But I've watched long enough. And now, I'm sending someone who doesn't just sympathize with your story, they understand it on a spiritual level. Not by reading about it, not by guessing, but by revelation. They will see past the surface and into the deep. They will perceive the invisible bruises that even you've stopped noticing. They won't flinch at your history. They won't turn away from the mess. They've been anointed to step into the weight of your yesterday, not to carry it for you, but to help you release it permanently. This will be another attempt at moving on by forcing yourself to forget. I never ask you to forget, I ask you to heal. And this time, I'm initiating a restoration that begins with understanding. I am not sweeping your story under the rug. I'm laying it bare under the light of my mercy, and I'm doing it through someone who knows how to handle your heart without causing further damage. Their spirit is calibrated to your pain. Their insight has been forged through their own wilderness. They know what it means to be crushed and rebuilt. That's why they won't judge you for your survival mechanisms. That's why they'll offer patience where others gave up. This is my way to send healing that understands you, not one that merely pities you. When you begin to speak, if words come at all, you'll find that they already know. They'll not because they're pretending to care, but because their soul resonates with the places you thought no one could reach. And as that resonance takes root, the weight of your past will begin to shift. You will not forget everything that happened, but you will no longer carry it as a burden. You'll begin to feel what you thought was impossible: lightness. Not because the past changed, but because the grip it held over you was finally broken by understanding. The kind that doesn't invalidate what happened, but instead says, "Yes, I see it all, and you are still loved, still worthy, still chosen." This isn't about psychology. It's about redemption. I'm redeeming your emotional timeline. I'm reaching into events that seemed unhealed for so long, not by rewinding time, but by rewriting what time left behind. I've hidden this kind of healing in a human who carries me so deeply that their eyes will remind you that the worst thing you survived wasn't the end of your story. They won't rush you through your narrative. They'll sit with it, honor it, and then gently guide you back to a perspective you lost, that I never abandoned you. Even in those moments, even when you were convinced I looked away, the person I'm sending knows how to walk someone back into truth without shaming them for how long they stayed in the lie. They carry a force not of control, but of compassion with clarity. And when that clarity meets the chaos that's been looping in your thoughts for years, you'll feel something start to unlock. You'll feel the heavy memories begin to lose their sharpness. You'll feel your identity begin to loosen from the labels that were put on you during those old seasons. This is not temporary emotional relief. This is deep structure healing. I'm not just lifting the weight, I'm dismantling the altar it sat on. That false belief that said this is who I'll always be is crumbling now. That resignation that whispered it's too late to recover is being silenced. This is what divine understanding does. It steps into rooms where trauma once lived and reclaims them for glory. It transforms your history into holy ground. And through this sacred connection I'm ordaining, I am proving to you that I never needed you to be perfect. I only needed you to receive the healing I had planned from the beginning. You forgot not because you're weak, but because pain has a way of clouding memory. You spent so long surviving that you slowly lost touch with the voice you used to carry, the light you once held without trying, the fire that once danced inside your spirit before disappointment taught you how to shrink. Life didn't ask for your permission before it placed those burdens on your back. One by one, they added weight until your reflection no longer matched what I spoke over you. And somewhere in the quiet, you began to accept a version of yourself that was never born from me. But I didn't forget. I didn't adapt my plans based on your struggle. I didn't rewrite your identity because your journey took longer than you hoped. I preserved your original design under layers of weariness, waiting for this very moment when the one I've chosen would arrive, not to introduce something new, but to call back what was never lost in me. They come not with pressure, but with precision. Your assignment isn't to fix you, it's to reflect the version of you that's still alive, even if buried. The person you were before heartbreak muted your voice. The child who laughed without fear. The dreamer who believed the impossible without calculation. That person still exists, even if you've lost the roadmap. And I've placed the coordinates inside the one I'm sending. They will not project their image onto you. They will hold up the mirror you've avoided, the mirror that shows your real face, not the one shaped by survival or formed by fear. You won't feel exposed, you'll feel found. And that finding will ignite something sacred. You won't need to strive to get back to the old you. You'll simply recognize what never left, the spark I placed inside you when I called you by name. Your presence will be a remembering. Their words won't sound profound, but they'll awaken what you thought had gone numb. They will look at you and see beyond what's broken. They will speak to the fire while others spoke to the ashes. You've been seen through the lens of lack for too long. Seen as someone trying to rebuild, trying to recover. But they will see you as whole in process. They will speak to you not as someone who's trying to become, but as someone who's always been becoming. That distinction matters, because it will remove the shame of delay. It will dissolve the lie that says you're behind. You're not behind. You're right on time for rediscovery. When you hear their voice, don't be surprised if tears come first. Your soul has been waiting for recognition. You've lived as a stranger to your own reflection for too long. But I've kept record of every part of you, even the ones you discarded. Even the ones you said were too much, too sensitive, too intense, too hopeful. I wrote all of that into your identity. And now I'm sending someone who will reintroduce you to what's still breathing under the surface. They won't do it by force. They won't demand you change. They will simply be, and in their being, you'll remember. Not in loud revelation, but in quiet moments, a glance, a word, a silence that somehow says everything. This isn't self-help. This is sacred unveiling. You've worn so many layers to survive seasons that required armor, and now you've forgotten where you end and your protection begins. I'm peeling that away gently, not with pain but with love. And I'm doing it through someone who won't abandon you mid-process. They are not intimidated by your layers. They've had to unlearn their own. That's why I trust them with you. Because they won't try to pull you forward, they'll walk beside you until you feel safe enough to emerge. And as you rise, don't be shocked when you feel power return to your voice, when creativity begins to bloom again, when courage starts humming in your chest like it used to. That's the sound of you remembering who you are. Not because someone told you, but because my presence through them showed you. And when you see it, when you recognize what's been there all along, you'll know I never forgot you. I only waited until the day you could see yourself again. You've had enough of noise, opinions tossed at you like lifelines that couldn't hold your weight, voices layered in correction when you were simply asking for connection. You've had to explain yourself too many times, only to be met with nods that didn't understand and responses that missed the ache in your tone. And in that void, you learned to go quiet, to retreat, to speak less, not because you didn't want to be known, but because it hurt too much to be misunderstood. But I have not created you to remain hidden beneath your own silence. I'm sending someone whose stillness carries more healing than 1,000 words shouted from a distance. They don't come to fill the room with advice, they come to occupy the silence with presence. Their peace will not pressure you to open up, it will make space safe enough for truth to rise on its own. When they sit with you, you will feel no demand to perform. You won't feel the weight to explain your history or justify your reactions. Their nearness will disarm the walls you've layered for protection. They won't rush your process. They won't listen just to respond. They will listen to receive, because they know how sacred it is to be trusted with someone's silence. I taught them this. I trained them in the ministry of being still. They've walked through seasons where their own cries were met with empty echoes, and I turned those empty spaces into holy classrooms. I taught them how to listen until they could hear the language of pain beneath the pause. And now, they carry a sacred ability to sit in the silence without needing to fix it. This is how I restore you, not by forcing a breakthrough through conversation, but by allowing peace to do what pressure never could. The silence they bring will not be hollow. It will be heavy with grace, thick with love, weighty with the kind of patience that your nervous system has never experienced. Because this isn't just about healing your spirit. I'm healing your body too. The tension you've carried, the tightness in your chest, the fatigue that never seems to lift, those are not random symptoms. They are signs of a life spent on alert, waiting for permission to rest. And I am giving you that permission now. Through this divine connection, I'm saying, breathe again. You don't need to watch your words. You don't need to measure how much is too much. You can just be, and that will be enough. They will recognize what others overlooked, the strength it took to remain gentle, the courage it required to stay soft when the world demanded you harden. And they won't trample over that softness, they will honor it. Your silence will be a sanctuary. Your presence will become proof that you are not too deep, too sensitive, too emotional. You are simply someone whose heart was made to feel fully, and that is not a weakness, it is a gift. And I'm using this encounter to unwrap what's been buried beneath layers of protection. In their stillness, you'll feel heard. Without interrogation, you'll feel known. Without being pulled, you'll feel led. And slowly, gently, you'll find your own voice returning, not because they told you who to be, but because they reminded you that your voice matters. That it was never lost, only quieted by environments too noisy to hear it. But now, that environment is changing. You are stepping into a space where silence isn't awkward, it's holy. Where silence isn't emptiness, it's healing. Where silence isn't avoidance, it's invitation. I'm not asking you to open your heart on command. I'm simply placing you in the presence of someone who knows how to wait with you until you're ready. This is what I do. I meet you not in the shouting, but in the whisper. Not in performance, but in presence. And in this moment, I'm showing you that stillness can speak, and when it does, every fear, every panic, every lie that told you love had to be loud will finally be silenced. You've been around many who offered help, but only if they could stand over you. You've seen what it's like to be given pieces of hope with strings attached, words dressed as wisdom but wrapped in superiority. You've grown guarded, not because you lack faith, but because you've learned how costly it can be to receive from someone who makes your pain about themselves. But I'm not like them, and neither is the one I'm sending. This time, I've chosen someone who knows how to lift without needing to be seen. Someone who understands that true help doesn't need a platform. They don't need to be your savior, they only need to be available. Because they know the value of what's been placed in their hands, and they would rather carry it quietly than risk you feeling small under their shadow. They have no interest in being worshipped. They carry no pride about their calling. They've been humbled in hidden places. They've lost much, but what they gained in the fire was purity of heart. Their motives have been sifted. Your agenda has been burned away. They are not coming to use you to validate themselves. They are coming to serve, and their service will not make you feel indebted. It will make you feel seen. You will not owe them your story, they will honor it like treasure, not transaction. They understand that healing is not a moment to be credited, it's a miracle to be witnessed. And because of that posture, you'll begin to trust again. Not because they convince you, but because their lack of performance will speak louder than any eloquence could. You've learned to recognize authenticity, and when they enter your life, their presence will ring true in the parts of you that have been silent for too long. You'll feel your guard begin to lower, not because they asked you to trust them, but because they never asked for anything. Their love won't press, it will wait. Their discernment won't expose, it will cover. They'll feel more like a shelter than a voice. And in that shelter, you will find your breath again. This is what I meant by protection. Not just from enemies, but from being misused in moments of vulnerability. I know how sacred your process is. I know how long you've held certain parts of your story, waiting for a place safe enough to unpack them. This is that place. They are that place. I've hidden gentleness in their strength, wisdom in their silence, and patience in their passion. They're not rushing towards some glorious reveal, they're walking slowly, deliberately, because they understand that this connection isn't about being seen, it's about seeing you. Clearly, deeply, tenderly. This next chapter of your life isn't going to start with a spotlight. It's going to start with a presence that listens more than it leads, a presence that holds more than it speaks, a presence that enters your world without trying to rearrange it, but instead gently begins to reveal the beauty still buried within it. They will come to be your anchor. They'll help you find the anchor already inside you. They will replace your voice. They'll help you recover it. And through this holy connection, I'm restoring the balance that was stolen from your previous relationships, the ones where you gave more than you received, where you carried the weight of others while no one noticed your arms were shaking. I saw that. And now I'm answering it. I'm rewriting that pattern through someone who knows how to give without draining you, how to support without silencing you, how to hold space without making it about themselves. Their joy will come not from what they can extract, but from how they can add to your strength, to your peace, to your sense of safety in this world again. This is what it looks like when heaven sends help with no ego. Help that holds, that harms. Help that stays, not stuns. And when you experience it, you'll feel the ground of your soul begin to trust again. Not just in them, but in me, for sending someone who reminds you that love was never supposed to feel like control. You've been tilted, not because you lost your foundation, but because the weight of repeated instability has shifted the balance inside you. You stood, but it's been uneven. You've walked, but it's been with a limp. You've made progress, but it's been exhausting because so much of your inner compass hath been disrupted by unpredictable seasons and people who left more confusion than clarity. You've grown accustomed to recalculating every emotional step, unsure if you're moving forward or simply avoiding collapse. But I never created you to live in that state of tension, that constant internal bracing, that unrelenting sense of something's off. That's not your new normal. And the one I'm sending is arriving not with answers to all your questions, but with the presence to stabilize what's been off balance for far too long. They come with something deeper than solutions. They come with alignment. And when alignment steps into chaos, the chaos begins to lose its voice. They don't come to fix your world. They come carrying a spiritual equilibrium that your heart will recognize before your mind does. Your soul is anchored in me, and that anchor creates a stillness that reaches places you forgot were spinning. You've grown used to spiritual vertigo, trying to pray through dizziness, trying to discern through distortion. But when they arrive, your internal compass will begin to reset, without forcing it, without grammatics. Simply by standing near them, the vibration of my presence within them will begin to recalibrate everything in you that's been slightly misaligned. They are not coming to give you a new direction. They are coming to help you remember true north. You've always had it. You've always heard me. But grief muffled my voice. Disappointment wrote your map. And fear placed detour signs where I placed open roads. They will not chart your course for you, but they will walk with you until the static clears and you can hear me clearly again. Your life is tuned to my frequency. That's why their words will cut through confusion without shouting. That's why their presence will draw you into peace without demanding stillness. Because peace isn't something they recite, it's something they carry. This is not about control. This is about correction, not the harsh kind, but the kind that makes you breathe again. The kind that gently shifts your weight from false ground onto something solid. The kind that doesn't accuse but realigns. The kind that says, hey, you were always heading in the right direction. You just got bumped a little. And when you feel that shift, when you realize that you've been leaning too hard on parts of yourself that were never meant to hold all that weight, you'll finally let go of the strain. Not because you failed, but because you're finally free to trust that you're supported. Your wisdom won't overpower. It will correct the course without confrontation. Their guidance won't sound like commands. It'll feel like a gentle pull from a place that somehow knows the way. That's because I trained them not in certainty, but in discernment. They won't be afraid to sit with your questions. They'll embrace them, knowing that some answers aren't immediate, and some revelations come only through time and presence. You'll find yourself beginning to recenter emotionally, spiritually, even physically. You'll feel peace settle in your body like it's been waiting to return. You'll notice how your mind doesn't race quite as much. How the tension in your chest doesn't scream like it used to. That's because the misalignment is healing not all at once, but consistently, undeniably, beautifully. And don't be surprised when clarity follows. Decisions that felt too heavy to touch will become lighter. Emotions that felt entangled will start to separate into truth and fear. Because I didn't just send someone to comfort you, I sent someone to restore your rhythm. They carry my timing, my balance, my peace, and their life will become a mirror that helps you see what's possible when everything inside you begins to agree with what I've been saying all along. This is how alignment begins. Quietly, powerfully, permanently. You stood at the edge of many new beginnings, only to walk away, not because you weren't ready, but because you were afraid to hope again. You've reached out only to feel doors close. You've poured your heart into new chapters that turned into old wounds. And somewhere along the way, your soul began to whisper, Maybe this is as far as I go. You stopped saying it out loud, but it echoed in your choices. You dreamed smaller. You prayed safer. You avoided the tender places in your heart where disappointment built walls and called it wisdom. But I saw all of it. And even when you stopped asking for more, I never stopped planning it. I never surrendered the life I spoke over you just because pain tried to edit your desire for it. And now, right now, I'm sending someone who will stand in front of that closed-off part of your heart and become the key you didn't know you needed. They are not coming to kick down doors. They are not forcing you into change. They are arriving with presence, not pressure. Your life has been shaped in such a way that simply being near them will reawaken the parts of you that still believe in the impossible. Their eyes will carry something you forgot existed, promise that doesn't pretend, and peace that doesn't fade. When you look at them, you'll start to remember what it felt like to expect good things again, not because they offer them, but because my spirit through them reveals that they are still possible. This is how I lead you into new life, not always through dramatic events, but often through divinely appointed people who carry my breath into your broken spaces. They won't try to fix your pain. They will respect it. They'll understand that some parts of you need space to open, not solutions. And as they gently walk with you, they'll do something no one else could, make you want to live fully again. They will give you permission that was never theirs to give. But their presence will remind you that you were always allowed to want more. That your dreams didn't die, they were just buried under the weight of waiting. You've been faithful in seasons of barrenness. You've loved me through silence. You've stayed present when everything in you wanted to disappear. And now I'm showing you that I didn't forget. The seeds you sowed in tears are about to meet someone who helps you harvest in joy. You've walked through wilderness alone, and I'm not ignoring the beauty in that. But this chapter, it requires partnership. And I've chosen someone whose hands won't just hold yours, they'll hold vision with you. They'll see the things you stopped talking about because you thought they were too much. And instead of backing away, they'll lean in. They'll say, let's build it. Let's believe again. And you will. You'll move forward, not because everything is perfect, but because someone finally saw the parts of you that always wanted to move but needed help remembering how. This person I'm sending is a doorway, not a destination. They are not coming to complete you. They are coming to walk with you into what's already complete in me. And as you pass through that doorway, as you begin to open again, risk again, breathe again, you'll realize you were never as far away from freedom as it felt. You were simply waiting for the one who would hold the door open long enough for you to walk through it on your own. This isn't about dependency, it's about divine agreement. When your faith meets their faith, when your scars meet their understanding, when your waiting meets their timing, something holy will happen. Movement. Not forced, not frenzy, but deeply real. You'll find yourself stepping into rooms you once stood outside of, taking action on dreams you'd placed on pause, believing for breakthroughs you thought had expired. Because the life you thought you forfeited when lost it was protected. And now it's time. And I'm using this person not as your future, but as your invitation back into it. You've been functioning but not fully. You've been present but not completely alive. There is a version of you that once dreamed freely, spoke boldly, loved openly, created without fear of judgment. That version still exists, buried beneath layers of survival, tucked away behind moments that broke your confidence and taught you to dim your light to stay safe. Every time you tried to step out, echoes of rejection pushed you back. Every time you began to hope again, memories whispered warnings. And little by little, the world trained you to become someone smaller, someone safer, someone quieter. But I never changed my mind about you. I never traded in your original design for this diluted version. And now, I am sending someone whose very presence will begin to break the spell of suppression that pain placed over your spirit. They will not demand that you rise. They will draw you out gently, steadily, patiently. They'll speak to the version of you that you forgot, not as an idea, but as reality. Because what I've hidden in them is the exact sound your locked-up potential hath been waiting to hear. It won't be dramatic. It won't always be loud, but it will reach you. Their voice will land like truth after years of silence. Their presence will feel like breath where you'd forgotten how to inhale without bracing for pain. They won't force you to become anything. But somehow, round them, you'll start becoming naturally, effortlessly, finally. This isn't manipulation. This is mirroring. They will reflect back to you the image I've always seen. And the moment you catch a glimpse of it again, your soul will begin to stretch. Not because they are changing you, but because they are making space for what trauma compressed. You've outgrown who you became to survive. And now I'm pulling you forward into who you were always meant to be. Don't be afraid when your old patterns start to feel uncomfortable around them. That's not resistance, it's awakening. The mask you once wore will start to itch. The roles you played to earn love will begin to unravel. The lies you internalized will begin to sound foreign. Because when truth enters the room, everything false gets exposed not with shame, but with grace. I've anointed them to walk beside you as the truth rises. They won't rush your unfolding. They won't panic when the old pain resurfaces. They'll stand steady while you remember how to live unfiltered again. You don't need to prove yourself to them. You don't need to earn their loyalty. Their heart already knows how to stay. They've been trained in the art of consistency, shaped by their own battles with identity, and refined by their willingness to let me speak louder than fear. That's why I chose them. Because they won't be intimidated by your brilliance. They won't compete with your emergence. They will celebrate it, even when it means you surpass what they've seen before. That's how you will know this connection is from me, not because they fix you, but because they free you. And don't be surprised when the things you thought were gone begin to return. Creativity will start flowing again, pure and bold, like it did before criticism taught you to censor. Your voice will begin to carry weight again, not volume, but presence. Your laughter will sound unfamiliar at first, not because it's new, but because it's been silent for too long. And with each passing moment, you'll sense a shift not only in how others see you, but in how you see yourself. It's what happens when trauma loses its grip. That's what happens when someone sent by me touches the places others only tiptoed around. This is not just healing. This is reactivation. This is not about being rescued. This is about resurrecting what never died, only went dormant. The boldness you buried is rising. The dreams you shelved are stirring. The courage you silenced is speaking again. And the one I'm sending isn't the cause. They are the confirmation. The evidence that I've always seen you clearly, fully, joyfully, and I will stop at nothing to bring you back to the freedom that pain tried to convince you you didn't deserve. You've known people who said they'd stay and left when the silence got too loud. You've seen hands reach toward you only to pull away once they touched your pain. You've been surrounded by people who celebrated your strength but disappeared when they realized healing takes time, and love requires presence, not just applause. And through all of it, you learned to depend on no one, to hold yourself together in the quiet, to walk through fire without a witness. But I never intended for you to carry this alone. I saw every moment you stood in storms without cover. And now, I am sending someone who has been prepared not just to show up, but to remain. They won't flinch at the weight you carry. They won't recoil when your wounds begin to speak. I have anointed them with a loyalty that doesn't come from personality, it comes from covenant. Not a contract, not a condition, but a divine commitment sealed in secret with me long before they ever knew your name. They've already said yes to the unseen. They've already surrendered their expectations of ease. That's why they won't leave when things get complicated. That's why they won't ask you to shrink your emotions or apologize for your process. They were sent for this. Their presence won't feel rushed. You won't sense pressure to get better quickly, so they'll stay. They will walk at your pace, matching your rhythm even when your steps are slow and your words are few. Because what they are carrying is not just companionship, it's a holy patience, the kind that mirrors mine. When they say I'm here, it won't be for the day, or the week, or until it gets uncomfortable. It will be for the long haul, for the layers, for the nights when you're too tired to speak and the mornings when you're too guarded to be open. They are not visitors. They are builders. And what they will help you rebuild can only be done brick by brick, breath by breath, moment by sacred moment. This loyalty won't be loud, it'll be consistent. It won't always come with grand gestures, but it will show up in the way they remember the details, the way they don't disappear when the novelty fades, the way they make space for your feelings even when they don't fully understand them. You won't have to perform to keep their affection. You won't need to be perfect to stay close. Their love will not hinge on your productivity or your peace. It will anchor you in the middle of your uncertainty and whisper, "I'm not going anywhere." And slowly, without even realizing it, you'll begin to breathe differently. The anxiety of being too much will start to lift. The tension of expecting rejection will start to ease. You'll find yourself speaking without censoring, asking without apologizing, crying without shame. Because finally, someone will have proven that your fragility is not a burden, it's a doorway into deeper intimacy. You'll feel the walls begin to lower, not because they asked you to take them down, but because their presence convinced you that you're safe enough to. This kind of loyalty is rare, but I give rare things to those who have endured rare pain. I'm not giving you another visitor. I'm giving you a partner, one who holds space with reverence, one who sees your scars and calls them sacred, one who's not intimidated by your past or overwhelmed by your future. They are not here to lead you, they are here to walk beside you. They are not threatened by your growth, they believe in it. And their faith in what's ahead will often hold you when your own faith is fragile. This is the kind of love that heals not just because it shows up, but because it stays. And through them, you'll begin to experience what I've always offered: unshakable presence. I never left. And now, neither will they. You've seen too many entrances that ended in exits. You've had encounters that came wrapped in noise but carried no depth. You've welcomed people who made promises with passion and vanished when the process began. And because of it, your heart has learned to be skeptical of sudden light, cautious of new voices, hesitant to believe that anything genuine could still find you after everything that's fallen apart. But I'm doing this differently. I'm not sending them with fanfare or obvious signs. I've chosen to deliver this miracle in silence, not to confuse you, but to protect the purity of what I'm building. The person I'm bringing won't arrive with a spotlight. They'll enter your life the way sunrise enters a room, slow, steady, undeniable. Not through flashes of performance, but through the kind of consistency that doesn't need an audience. You won't feel overwhelmed when they show up. You'll feel still. You'll feel your spirit lean in before your mind understands why. Because this isn't another interruption. This is intervention. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself because its impact will speak for itself. They'll come into view gently, one moment at a time, layered with quiet confirmations instead of loud declarations. And that's exactly how I intended it. If I had sent them with thunder, you might have second-guessed. If I had wrapped them in extravagance, you might have assumed it was another test. But because I know the weight of your waiting, I've chosen to answer in a way that your soul will recognize without confusion. You'll notice it in the way peace settles into the atmosphere when they are near. You'll sense it in the way your defenses begin to rest without command. You'll feel it in how nothing about them demands your attention, yet everything about them holds it. They won't rush to impress you. They'll simply be, and that being will carry the fragrance of authenticity you forgot existed. They won't try to convince you of who they are. Their life will whisper it in the way they show up, in the way they listen, in the way they make you feel safe without asking for access. They are not coming to spark a moment. They are being sent to sustain a shift, the shift you've prayed for but didn't know how to name. This is why I kept them hidden until now. Because the kind of healing you're stepping into requires substance, not spectacle. You've had enough of surface connections. You've smiled through conversations that never reached your heart. You poured from wells that ran dry because no one noticed you were empty. But now, everything changes, not because of their perfection, but because of my presence in them. They carry me, and you'll feel it. It will be subtle, like something ancient waking up inside you. And when it does, don't run. Don't resist. You're not being tricked. You're being touched by an answer I've been shaping for far longer than you know. Don't look for fireworks. Look for fruit. You'll see it in how they handle your silence, in how they respond to your story, in how they carry their own scars with humility instead of shame. They won't rush to speak, but when they do, their words will land like rain on dry earth. They'll reach into places that haven't heard truth in years. And you'll know not because of how loudly they arrive, but because of how deeply they see you without asking for performance. This is why I've done it quietly. Because this isn't for the crowd. This is for your core. I didn't send them to be a show. I sent them to be safe. I didn't send them to impress you. I sent them to impact you in a way no one else has, in a way that draws you out of hiding into healing and back into hope that doesn't have to be shouted to be real. You've had moments where healing began, only to be interrupted by those who didn't understand its sacred pace. You've opened small pieces of yourself and watched them be mishandled, misunderstood, or minimized. So you stopped opening. You told yourself you'd wait until it was safer, stronger, more certain. But time passed, and healing slowed not because you weren't willing, but because you were guarding the little progress you made with your whole heart. I understand. And that's why I'm not sending someone who will demand access. I'm sending someone who will honor boundaries as holy ground. Someone who knows that real love doesn't need full access to start offering real safety. They're not arriving to touch the wounds. They're coming to guard the recovery. To stand between you and anything that would try to drag you back into what you fought so hard to rise from. They won't ask you to go deeper before you're ready. They won't force open doors that were closed for protection. Their discernment will be gentle. Their pace will be prophetic. They'll notice what others ignored not because you pointed it out, but because they've learned to pay attention to the quiet details. That's how they love, carefully, reverently, like someone who's been entrusted with something fragile and priceless. This is how I protect you in this new season. Not by isolating you again, but by surrounding you wisely. The one I'm sending is not an intruder. They're an intercessor. They'll stand in the gap not with their opinions, but with my heart. When your voice trembles, they won't rush to speak over it. When your joy returns in pieces, they won't pressure you to celebrate what still feels unfamiliar. They know what it's like to rebuild, to rise slowly, to walk with a limp from battles that no one else saw. And that's why I trust them with your becoming. Because they've protected their own healing too. They won't infuse your caution with rejection. They'll see it for what it is, sacred wisdom formed in pain that refused to destroy you. They are coming not as a spotlight, but as a shield. They'll shield your vulnerability from being exposed too quickly. They'll shield your process from those who only value the end result. They'll stand over your healing like a watchman, not controlling, but covering. And that covering will feel new to you, unfamiliar. At first, you might question it. You might ask, why are they being so patient? Why aren't they asking more from me? And the answer will be found in their posture. They're not here to extract. They are here to ensure that what's been planted in you has time to take root. Your presence will create the kind of silence that feels safe, the kind of stillness that allows you to breathe in your own timing. You won't need to rehearse your emotions or explain your history. They will know how to wait with you, wait without discomfort, wait without agenda. Because they were made for this moment, too. This is not just about your healing. It's also about their obedience. They waited on my timing, not knowing who they were waiting for. But their patience wasn't wasted. It was forming the capacity to carry this calling, to hold space for your wholeness without needing to rush its arrival. You've longed for a space like this. A space where healing could continue without being disrupted. A space where who you're becoming isn't compared to who you've been. A space where progress isn't measured in speed but in softness. That space is coming. And it's not a room, it's a person. A walking answer. A living confirmation that I saw you in the quiet, and I didn't just hear your prayers, I designed a response around your pace, your tenderness, your timeline. And now, as they arrive, not loud, not flashy, but real, you'll know this is different. You'll know this is me. Because for the first time, you won't feel like you need to defend your process. You'll simply feel it being protected. Here's a language that pain speaks without making a sound, a weight in your breath, a tremor in your silence, a pause before your smile. And for so long, you stood among people who only understood words, not weather. You've been expected to translate your inner storm into small talk. You've been asked to summarize years of ache into convenient sentences. And when you couldn't, they misunderstood your distance, misjudged your quiet, and labeled you guarded when you were actually just trying not to drown. But I've watched. And I'm not sending another listener who needs your breakdown before they believe your burden. I'm sending someone who will feel the rain in your atmosphere and choose to stay anyway. They'll enter not with umbrellas or solutions, but with reverence. They will not try to dry you off too quickly. They will simply sit in the rain until you feel safe enough to come out from hiding. They won't ask for details you're not ready to share. They won't demand vulnerability before trust is built. They've been trained in the art of presence, not just showing up physically, but being fully available spiritually. And their soul will know how to read yours, not with intrusion, but with holy awareness. This is not about being figured out, it's about finally being felt. Because I know what you've hidden behind your strength. I know how many nights you've cried without letting the tears fall. I know the battles you fought alone, while others called you brave but never saw the cost. And I know how tired your heart is of being strong for people who didn't even notice you were bleeding. That's why this person isn't being sent to comment on your pain, they are being sent to carry it with you, in silence if needed, in prayer when words won't do, in proximity even when healing feels far. You won't have to perform grief around them. You won't have to package your struggle in poetic language. They'll pick up on the things you don't say. They'll hear the sadness in your "I'm fine." They'll catch the weight behind your smile. Undergrande, but to cover it. To say with their nearness, you're not invisible anymore. You've spent enough time feeling unseen in plain sight. I'm changing that now. Through them. Through this divine companionship that isn't built on explanation but on empathy shaped in my presence. They know storms. They walked through their own. That's why they won't fear yours. They won't panic when you have quiet days. They won't rush you when you're processing slowly. They'll sense the shifting pressure in your spirit, and instead of asking you to calm it, they'll sit beside you and wait for the sun to break with you. Your loyalty isn't contingent on your clarity. Their commitment isn't based on your productivity. They've already been through the kind of wilderness that taught them how to recognize sacred weather systems, and you are one of them. Your silence is not an inconvenience. It is an invitation for someone safe enough to draw near without asking to be let in. They'll know when to speak and when to simply remain. And that restraint is a gift you've rarely received. They won't prod. They won't press. They'll protect. And in that safety, you'll find the courage to start unpacking what's been buried, not all at once, but naturally, gently, without pressure. Because they'll never treat your storm as a project. They'll treat it as proof that you survived. And they'll honor every drop of rain that shaped who you are now. This connection won't pull you out of your storm prematurely. It will teach you how to walk through it with company. You won't feel like you're being fixed. You'll feel like you're finally not alone. And slowly, the clouds inside will start to shift. Not because they chase them away, but because they remain long enough for light to find its way back in. This is my mercy, sent in the form of someone who knows how to read silence and respond with stillness. You are no longer weathering this by yourself. They are not afraid of your storm. They've been prepared to stand in it with you until you remember the sound of peace again. There's a delicate moment in healing where joy begins to rise again, hesitantly, softly, like a child peeking out from behind the curtain after a long storm. And in the past, when you've tried to step back into joy, it's been rushed, mocked, or misunderstood. You've laughed only to feel eyes watching, waiting to see if it would last. You've dared to celebrate, only to be reminded of what you've lost. That kind of interruption teaches you to be quiet about your hope, to hide your happiness, to be cautious, even with goodness. But I am changing that now. I am sending someone who doesn't just know how to comfort you in sadness, they know how to protect the fragile birth of your joy. They've learned the sacredness of early light. They understand that the first smile after a long season of grief isn't something to be paraded, it's something to be protected. Their hands are trained to carry not just the weight of tears, but the responsibility of tenderness. When joy comes back in pieces, unexpected, unsteady, and unfamiliar, they won't rush to amplify it. They won't use it as proof that you're finally better. They'll cradle it gently, like something holy returning to a heart that forgot it could hold joy without fear. Because joy, for you, hasn't been simple. It's been layered with memory, shadowed by loss, and tested by time. It's been something you once touched only to watch it slip away. And now, as it begins to breathe again inside you, I'm surrounding you with someone who knows how to make room without demanding more than you're ready to give. They won't try to force joy to bloom, they'll nurture it, shield it from winds of comparison and pressure, and create an atmosphere where your gladness can grow without explanation. You won't need to apologize when you feel happy. You won't have to explain why laughter feels strange or why celebration brings a lump to your throat. They'll already understand, because I've given them a heart that recognizes sacred rebirth when it sees it. They've watched their own joy rise from the ruins. They've held their own light through trembling hands. That's why they will mishandle yours. Your empathy will wrap around your emerging joy like a blanket, not to smother it, but to keep it safe until it's strong enough to stand. And when others don't understand your quiet smile, when some question why you're still cautious in your happiness, they'll speak for you if needed or simply stand beside you so you don't have to. Their loyalty will waver when your joy feels delayed. Their belief in your wholeness won't depend on whether you're smiling that day. They'll see the truth of your progress even when the world still expects performance. This is deeper than support, it's safeguarding. They're not here to observe your healing from a distance. They're here to defend it in its most delicate stages. Because the enemy doesn't just attack in darkness, he often attacks when the light returns. When you start to feel joy, he'll whisper it's too soon. When you laugh, he'll accuse you of forgetting. But through this person I'm sending, I am placing guardrails around your resurrection. I'm placing someone in your life who knows how to hold vigil over your joy without making it about them. Someone who doesn't need your happiness to validate their presence. Someone who doesn't mistake joy as proof that the journey is finished but sees it for what it truly is, evidence that you're still becoming. They'll protect your right to feel deeply, fully, freely. They'll rejoice with you, not for attention but because they see joy as warfare. Because they know every giggle, every exhale, every second of peace is a victory over the heaviness that once silenced you. And they will honor it like treasure. They will hold space like holy ground. They will walk beside your joy like it's sacred, and it is. So when joy returns, even if it comes quietly, you'll know it's safe to receive. Because this time, you won't have to guard it alone. There's a battle that doesn't show on the surface. It doesn't always look like chaos, but you feel it every day. In the way your mind loops through fears before you even rise from bed. In the way your heart prepares for disappointment, even in moments that are supposed to feel safe. It's a quiet war, one that's raged so long you stopped expecting it to end. You've learned how to smile through it, how to function inside it, how to build a life while carrying a battlefield inside your chests. But I never designed you to live in war mode forever. You were made for rest. You were created for peace that doesn't just visit, you were created for peace that stays. So now I'm sending someone not with words to fix you, not with strategies to manage your tension, but with a peace so anchored in me that when they step into your space, the storm in you will begin to quiet without command. This is not surface calm. This is a deeper hush, the kind that doesn't just stop the noise, but removes the need to brace for more. They will come with the intensity you had to match. They will come in stillness, and that stillness will begin to dismantle the urgency that's lived inside you for too long. You won't feel like you're fighting for air in their presence. You'll begin to breathe again slowly, freely, deeply. You'll notice how your body starts to relax in ways you didn't think it could anymore. The tightness in your chest won't feel so constant. The overthinking won't be as loud. Because their presence won't ask your soul to hurry, it will invite it to rest. And you'll realize you've spent years running without stopping, not because you lacked faith, but because you lacked peace. And now, I'm delivering it through someone who knows how to carry my spirit without stirring your survival instincts. They won't try to calm you down with cliches or spiritual talk that feels disconnected from your pain. They will carry the kind of quiet that speaks directly to your nervous system. Because their peace wasn't manufactured in comfort, it was forged in fire. They fought their own wars. They've had to find stillness in places where stillness felt like a myth. They know what it's like to be ruled by internal storms, and they know the sacred relief of finding someone who doesn't stir the water but sits beside you until the waves stop crashing. And now, they're being sent to sit with you. You'll feel it in their words, not because they're clever, but because they don't have to speak much at all. Their tone will carry a softness that disarms your defenses. Their pace will remind you that healing isn't a race. And their spirit will remind you what you forgot in the chaos. You are not meant to live braced for the next blow. You are not meant to flinch at kindness. You are not meant to analyze every conversation for hidden danger. You were designed to know peace as your home, not a stranger that comes and goes. I'm not just healing your memories, I'm healing your state of being. And I'm doing it through someone whose calm doesn't collapse under pressure. They will hold stillness when things feel uncertain. They will remain steady even when your thoughts feel tangled. They will walk with you through moments when panic rises, not trying to suppress it, but carrying enough peace to absorb it. Their faith won't just speak, it will settle you. And in that settling, your heart will begin to release the constant scanning, the constant second-guessing, the instinct to prepare for pain before joy even arrives. You'll stop waiting for the moment to be ruined. You'll stop expecting peace to be temporary. Because this time, it won't be. I've placed my shalom in a human vessel, and they are walking into your life not to preach about peace, but to be the evidence that it still exists. You've been in battle for too long, beloved. This is your ceasefire. This is the soft landing you never thought would come. And this is only the beginning of a rest that's been reserved just for you. Somewhere along the way, love became something you performed for. You learned to earn affection by being useful. You picked up the weight of everyone else's comfort just to keep your place at the table. You became the one who made things easier, smoother, quieter for everyone except yourself. And because of that, you began to believe that love must come through sacrifice. That it's normal to give all and receive little. That unless it costs you your peace, your voice, your rest, it's not real. But that's not love. That's exhaustion dressed as loyalty. That's trauma playing dress up as selflessness. And I'm healing that now. Through someone who will break the lie that love must be painful to be true. I'm sending someone whose love does not rise because you strive harder. They will not love you more when you're easy and less when you're messy. Their affection won't hinge on your ability to stay composed. They will reward your silence or punish your vulnerability. They will not see you as a project to fix or a trophy to polish. They will see you as a soul to honor, no performance required. You won't have to convince them of your value. You won't need to make them comfortable by shrinking yourself. You will not be loved because you earn it. You will be loved because you are. And I know that idea scares you. I know part of you wants to run even from what you prayed for. Because when you've been trained to find safety in being needed, the offer of love without conditions feels threatening. It feels like a trap. It feels unfamiliar. But this unfamiliar is holy. This discomfort is divine. Because it's not danger, it's freedom. You've never known what it means to be kept without cost. And now you will. Not because this person is perfect, but because they are sent. They are not here to complete you. They are not here to consume you. They are here to confirm that the love I give is not performance-based, and it never was. You've been loyal to people who benefited from your burnout. You've stayed in places where your needs were never seen as sacred. You've tolerated environments that praise your strength but dismissed your struggle. But now, I am surrounding you with someone who will not take advantage of your endurance. They will not call your overgiving noble. They will recognize it for what it is, the armor you wore to survive. And they will sit with you while you start to take it off piece by piece, without guilt. They will create a space where love isn't earned, it's extended, where you can be quiet and still be cherished, where you can be tired and not feel like a burden, where you can feel deeply and not be labeled dramatic. Their care will not increase when you produce more or behave better. It will stay the same through every mood, every milestone, every messy day when you feel like you have nothing to offer. And that constancy will begin to disarm the inner script that told you had to keep giving just to stay loved. Don't be surprised when rest begins to feel safer than service, when receiving becomes easier than overfunctioning, when you no longer feel guilty for being cared for. That's not regression. That's recovery. That's what happens when love finally arrives without an invoice. You begin to bloom in ways that performance could never produce. You begin to discover what you like, what you need, what you desire, not because you're preparing to meet someone else's demands, but because you're finally allowed to know yourself. And as you grow in that kind of love, you'll start to understand something profound. You never had to suffer to be worthy of affection. I was always going to send someone who could love you like I do, faithfully, quietly, without measuring your worth by your output. This person is not your healer, but they are part of your healing. They are not your reward, but they are proof that I never stopped writing your redemption. You are not too much. You are not too late. And you are no longer required to break in order to belong. You've spent years editing your truth to stay close to people. You've diluted your voice to maintain peace, masked your frustration in smiles, withheld your boundaries out of fear that being fully known would mean being left. Somewhere along the line, survival taught you to trade honesty for harmony, depth for distance, and presence for performance. But I never asked that of you. I never required you to fracture your soul in order to keep company. I am not the one who taught you that love means silence. And now, I'm unteaching that belief through someone who is arriving with the courage to love the unfiltered version of you. They will not need you to tiptoe through conversations. They won't flinch when truth spills out raw, even if it comes wrapped in tears, even if it trembles on your tongue. They won't ask you to compress the intensity of your convictions just to stay palatable. You won't need to cushion your honesty in layers of apology. You won't be told that your clarity is confrontation or that your boundaries are betrayal. They have been prepared to hear your truth and not only hear it, but honor it. Their maturity was forged in silence where they themselves had to hold back too much for too long. And because of that, they know how to sit with your vulnerability without weaponizing it. They've cried without being believed. They've spoken without being heard. And because they've lived that pain, they would never recreate it in you. That's why I've chosen them. They don't just tolerate truth, they thrive in it. Their love isn't intimidated by depth. It's activated by it. You'll notice it early on in the way they lean in when you start to share, and the way they don't interrupt your honesty with spiritual slogans or quick fixes. They let your truth breathe. They understand that honesty is a sacred offering, not a threat. You won't feel exposed when you're vulnerable with them. You'll feel expanded, like something inside you was finally given permission to live without disguise. This is not someone who needs you to always be soft in order to stay safe. This is someone who understands that sometimes healing sounds like raised voices, or silence, or trembling hands trying to explain a wound that never got language. They won't misinterpret your passion as anger or your distance as disloyalty. They've learned the difference between reactions born of pain and character rooted in love. And because of that, they won't shrink back when your honesty gets loud. They'll stand still, because that's how love shows up when truth finally speaks. With them, you'll stop asking yourself, did I say too much? You'll stop rehearsing conversations after they happen, wondering if you crossed an invisible line. Because they won't make your truth feel like a crime scene. They'll treat it like a map, one that helps them understand how to walk with you better. They won't always have the answers, but they will have the capacity. And in that capacity, you'll begin to experience something you forgot was possible: freedom inside connection. You've lived for too long believing you had to choose. Be close or be real. Be accepted or be honest. But now, I'm weaving both into one sacred place. You'll be loved, and you'll be listened to. You'll be celebrated, and you will be safe to correct. You'll be allowed to change your mind, to revisit old beliefs, to ask new questions. And never once will your growth be viewed as instability. It will be seen as evidence that you're alive. I'm doing this because your voice matters to me. Your truth is not too much. Your clarity is not a curse. I gave you that fire in your spirit for a reason, not so it would consume you in isolation, but so it would illuminate the right connection. And this is it. They are not perfect, but they are present. Not controlling, but consistent. Not demanding your silence, but making space for your sound. You no longer have to bend yourself to belong. You no longer have to dim your truth to remain loved. The next chapter begins where your voice is fully heard and still held. Amen.